In a world where adventurers explore countless mazes, a legend persists. Every few decades, within one of these infinite mazes, a portal opens. A black hole to another world appears. Those who enter and survive are promised immense wealth and superhuman strength. The battle has concluded deep within the backled maze, on the 38th floor boss room. A trio of adventurers stands victorious over the colossal, horned beast. In this new world, he must demonstrate his strength to survive. Lekan sheathes his weapon after the fight. He is known as Adventurer Lekan, the one-eyed wolf. His companion Bod, the man-eating bear, remarks on how fast the kill was, as expected from Lekan. Lekan replies that Bod's coordination was perfect, giving him the easy opening. Bod laughs, offering his services, but then questions if the beast is truly dead. Lekan suddenly calls for him to wait, activating his life sensor. He scans the area with his 3D object sensor. He reports that there's no abnormality with the beast's body. Bod questions this, pointing to something else entirely. A swirling, dark vortex has torn open the fabric of the room. Both men stare in shock, recognizing it as the legendary black hole. Lekan admits that even his powers cannot see beyond the hazy entrance, something he's never encountered before. Bod asks what Lekan will do, acknowledging that no one knows what happens if they enter. Decisively, Lekan announces that he will go. Impressed by his lack of hesitation, Bod agrees to join, proclaiming them both to be true adventurers. Lekan grunts, bracing himself against the strange sensation of the fall. As they tumble through the void, Bod cries out in alarm that they are falling. The two men are consumed by the abyss. They leave behind the crumbling maze and the skull of the beast they had slain. Lekan lands hard in a field of strange, tall grass. He is dazed from the fall. Groggily, he pushes himself to his feet. He wonders how long he was unconscious, as he usually wakes at the slightest noise. He quickly gets to his feet and calls out for Bod, but there is no answer. He scans the unfamiliar landscape. The black hole they pass through is nowhere to be found. Noticing the alien vegetation, he concludes this is the world beyond the black hole. He begins to scan his surroundings. He activates his life sensor. He finds the results strange. The life responses are too weak, and he can't see the animals he should be able to detect. His sensor normally shows animals as green dots and humans as red, but he can only find a weak green response. With no red dots in sight, he deduces Bod must have landed elsewhere. Suddenly, his sensor's reception increases. It picks up a new blue signal, and deciding to ensure his own safety first, he prepares to investigate. The blue life force his life sensor detected is not a normal being. He identifies it as a magical beast. He tests his storage ability. He is relieved to find it is still functional and his items are safe. Lekan draws his sword, ready for a fight. His sensor shows the beast heading straight for him. He wonders if it thinks he is prey. A massive boar-like beast charges from the tall grass. With a single swift strike, Lekan intercepts the charging beast, felling the massive creature in an instant. He stands over the slain beast. He notes it is a species he has never seen before. Sensing its magical reaction, he realizes he should be able to absorb its power. He prepares to use his magical power absorption. As the beast's body dissolves, Lekan absorbs its power. He recalls that magical beasts contain magic stones, located opposite their hearts. He confirms that his magical power absorption ability works the same in this world, allowing him to steal that magic. Reassured that he can fight and survive here, Lekan's confidence is restored. He is eager to test the limits of his powers in this new world. His first priority, however, is to secure food and water. His thoughts are interrupted. He hears what sounds like a girl's scream. Puzzled that no humans are in range of his sensor, he deduces the scream was carried by magic. His sensor picks up 2 dots indicating humans at a greater distance. Since he needs information about this new world, he decides to investigate. 2 massive boar-like beasts are on a rampage. They are attacking a carriage, its occupants trapped and in grave danger. Lekan watches the chaos from the tree line. An observer notes that while one of the pursuing demons has been dealt with, another continues its hunt. Moving closer, Lekan discovers a carriage and horses. He realizes people must be inside. He questions the meaning of the scene before him. Suddenly, a massive tusked beast charges at the group. A blond knight struggles to control his spooked horse. As he faces the beast, he is struck by an uncomfortable feeling in this strange new world. The knight uses his life sensor ability, detecting magical powers from the carriage occupants. However, he senses nothing from the mysterious man he saw, Lekan, and wonders if there is a skill to avoid detection. Looking closely, he sees there are 4 males. He realizes that all of them, including himself, lack magic powers. This leads him to question if they are impostors who only look human. The beast violently throws the knight from his horse. He hits the ground, stunned. He looks up, his eyes wide with shock. He sees a swirl of magic forming nearby. A torrent of fire erupts from the carriage. The blast engulfs the beast's head. The creature lets out a pained screech. A woman with a glowing staff stands in the carriage doorway, having unleashed the spell. Lekan watches from his hiding spot, identifying the attack as fire magic. The injured beast stumbles back in pain. Enraged and wounded, the beast turns its attention toward the carriage. The female mage stands her ground. A nearby guard shouts a warning. Lekan's cold gaze assesses the rapidly escalating situation. In a blur of motion, Lekan bursts from the trees. His dark cloak billows as he rushes to intercept the charging beast. His sword flashes, slicing across the creature's leg and crippling it mid-charge. Lekan lands, now standing as a barrier between the beast and the stunned knights. The knight leader looks on in disbelief. Lekan mentally reviews his attack, noting that a direct collision with the carriage would have been dangerous. He had to divert the beast by cutting off one of its legs. Despite its injury, the creature's power is still immense. He knows that its thick fur and hide make a clean decapitation nearly impossible, leaving its throat as the only sure target. However, with grim determination, Lekan lunges forward again, ready to end the fight. He delivers a swift, fatal blow, felling the massive beast for good. He reflects that the truly strong defeat their enemies by exploiting their weaknesses. The female mage watches in absolute awe. The knight leader stares in stunned silence. Lekan notes that he's depleted his magic. He stands over the defeated creature. He decides to retrieve the magic stone. He crushes it in his hand to absorb its power. The stone will be convenient later, even if his storage can't contain all its energy. The blonde knight approaches and tries to speak, but Lekan cannot understand him. The knight is bewildered, confirming that while Lekan looks human, his language is alien. Using his magic sensor again, he detects only a negligible response from Lekan. Lekan comes to a realization: the humans of this world possess almost no magic. Lekan's focus shifts back to the carriage, curious about its other occupants. The door opens. A figure in fine boots steps out onto the ground. A young woman, clearly of high status, emerges from the carriage and offers a graceful curtsy. Lekan immediately identifies her as the second magic user he had sensed earlier. Judging by her manners and high status, Lekan assumes she is thanking him. He apologizes, explaining that he can't understand her words and that she likely can't understand his. The young woman listens, confused. He finds himself in the strange position of being unable to communicate for the first time. He performs a deep, formal bow. The young woman and her guard look on, surprised. Recognizing the respect and courtesy she has shown him, Lekan decides he should return the gesture. Lekan muses that the royal etiquette from his world, which he once thought useless, might be valuable here. The 2 women discuss the situation. Lekan observes them, guessing they are arguing about what to do with him. The young noblewoman then smiles, having reached a decision. She steps forward and gently takes Lekan's hand. With a warm smile, she indicates that she wants him to come with her. She gestures towards the horizon, inviting him to her residence. Lekan gives a slight nod, accepting her invitation. He knows he needs to make contact with the local people, and finding friendly ones is the best possible start. He decides it would be wise to hide the items in his magical storage. He resolves not to show any skills or abilities that are alien to this world. To appear normal, he equips a simple baggage pouch. Satisfied that he now looks like a normal traveler, he joins the group. His attention is suddenly caught by something. He sees a soft glow of light. He sees the young noble girl kneeling beside the injured knight, her hands glowing with healing magic. Lekan realizes the young girl is a user of healing magic. The mage companion observes, thinking that the scale of her master's magic is considerably bigger than she expected. As the group prepares to leave, Lekan accepts the offer to ride in the carriage. They travel along a paved road. Looking out the window, Lekan is impressed by the large estate they are approaching. The carriage passes through the grand gates of the Zydmore Dominion, entering the feudal lord's residence. Lekan sits quietly under a tree in the estate's courtyard. From a window above, a man observes him. A servant approaches Lekan with a tray as the observer inside identifies him as the previously mentioned visitor. Zanjikale, the Zydmore family patriarch, asks Sir Ezak for his opinion of the man outside. Ezak reports that while Lekan possesses dangerous strength, he is also a man of honor. He appears to be a man who returns manners when thanked. Zanjikale is pleased to hear such high praise, especially since Lekan saved his daughter. He decides to give the visitor the hut in the garden and entrusts Ezak with what to do next, an order the knight readily accepts. 1 year passes and the seasons change over the land. Lekan leaps through the forest, his sword drawn. In a distant place, a mage senses the presence of 2 magical beasts. He lands amidst a group of startled creatures. A beast roars as Lekan moves in to strike. With fluid motions, he cuts through the creatures, dispatching them with brutal efficiency. Having finished his hunt, Lekan stands over the slain beasts. He returns to the Zydmore estate. As he walks through the courtyard, Ezak runs up to greet him for the morning. Ezak remarks on how quickly Lekan finished his hunt. Lekan greets Ezak and asks if he's ready for their daily session. Ezak eagerly agrees and Lekan tosses him a sword. They decide to train in front of Lekan's hut, and Ezak thanks him for the help. The 2 men face each other in the courtyard, ready to begin their sparring match. Ezak lets out a war cry as he attacks. Lekan easily parries the blow. He reflects that it has been a year since he began staying at the estate, and in that time he has learned the local language. At first, the household staff viewed him with suspicion. However, thanks to the respect shown by Lady Luvianafel and Ezak, he has now completely fit in. The spar ends swiftly as Lekan gets the upper hand. With the blade at his neck, Ezak yields. The knight laments that he is still no match, and Lekan offers no compliments. Lekan bluntly states that compliments won't make him stronger. As they talk, other knights watch, eager for their turn to train with him. Lekan notes that what started as sparring with Ezak has turned the area in front of his hut into a training ground for other knights and attendants. He defeats another opponent who thanks him for the lesson and calls for the next challenger. Just then, a servant named Grier calls out to him. Grier informs Lekan that Lady Luvianafel has summoned him and that he should come after breakfast. She sternly requests that he change out of his sweaty training clothes first. Lekan agrees, addressing her as Grier. Later, he walks through the halls. Dressed in formal livery, he reflects on how he still can't get used to such fancy attire. Lady Luvianafel greets Lekan warmly. He enters the room and returns the greeting, calling her Luvi. Lekan recalls that the young lady insisted he use her nickname, forbidding more formal titles. However, this informal rule is only enforced when her strict servants, Grier or Marinka, are not present. Luvi makes a request. She wishes to go to a cliff and wants him to protect her. Lekan agrees, provided Ezak gives the order. Luvi informs him she already has her father's permission and was about to tell Ezak. She then asks him to wear his own clothes, including his lovely cloak, instead of the house livery. Lekan accepts her request. Back in his hut, Lekan changes clothes, musing about how much he's changed today. He puts on his vest, a masterpiece made from rock spider thread with powerful defensive magic. His pants are also specially crafted from rare resources. Finally, he examines his cloak, made from the hide of a bear king, which has superior defensive magic and a self-restoration effect. Dressed in his familiar gear, Lekan feels much more at ease. A knock comes at his door as Ezak calls his name. Ezak tells him it's time to guard the young lady's carriage and asks if he can leave immediately. Lekan grabs his sword and confirms he's ready. Ezak is surprised by his sudden preparedness. Ezak is taken aback by Lekan's imposing appearance but quickly dismisses it, telling him to get going. Lekan inwardly agrees that he doesn't look like a typical noble's guard. They set off, with Lekan walking beside the horse-drawn carriage as it leaves the estate. As they travel, Lekan considers his role of guarding the patriarch and the young lady on their trips to the forest and outskirts. He feels that this favorable situation has kept him here. But he wonders if he has stayed a little too long. Lekan reflects that the Zydmore household is too comfortable for a foreigner like him. He didn't come to this world for a peaceful lifestyle, but to gain wealth and strength by fighting strong enemies. He's heard this world has mazes with rare treasures, and he wants to explore them. He wistfully wishes his old companion Bod was here. Suddenly, Lekan's senses pick up a large magical beast's response. He realizes it's getting closer and that he must deal with it. He moves away from the carriage. Ezak looks over, concerned by Lekan's sudden action. Lekan prepares to intercept the threat. Lekan moves swiftly through the dense forest. He closes the distance to the unseen creature. He confirms to himself that the beast is close. A massive four-armed beast bursts from the trees. Lekan identifies it as a spider monkey, noting its considerable size. The beast prepares to attack. The spider monkey crashes through the undergrowth. Lekan stands his ground, ready for the confrontation. The beast lets out a threatening hiss. Lekan's eyes are wide with focus as he registers the sound. Lekan rushes in, determined not to let the beast release its attack. He strikes the creature before it can act. The beast's eyes widen in shock and pain. With a powerful downward slash, Lekan fells the giant creature in a single, decisive blow. With the beast defeated, a dark energy dissipates from its corpse. Lekan prepares to harvest the spoils. He retrieves the magic stone from the creature's body. He reflects that even in this world, magic stones are highly valued. They are used for rituals, potions, and items known as magic tools. Lekan returns to the carriage, where Ezak asks him how it went. Lekan wordlessly tosses the large magic stone to him. Ezak catches the valuable prize. The knight looks impressed as they resume their journey. The carriage comes to a stop. Ezak announces their arrival to Luvianafel, who thanks him and says she'll be out immediately. She steps out of the carriage. She runs ahead, prompting a warning from Ezak about the danger. She stops at the edge of the cliff, marveling at the beautiful view. The group stands together, looking out over a vast, rocky landscape dotted with ancient stone structures. As Luvianafel gazes at the scenery, the wind blows through her long hair. Lekan observes that while she seems in a better mood than usual, for a split second he thought he saw a look of sadness cross her face. In a well-appointed room, an attendant puts the finishing touches on Luvianafel's hair. She asks if the young lady is happy with the result, and Luvianafel thanks her. The attendant then places a delicate necklace around her neck, completing her preparation. Standing before a mirror, Luvianafel looks at her reflection as her attendant compliments her beautiful appearance. That night a grand celebration is held in the mansion, where Luvianafel's father announces that his daughter has turned 14 and is now considered an adult. He asks for everyone's continued support and raises his glass for a toast. The crowd echoes his toast to his daughter with a resounding cheer. The party is in full swing, with guests enjoying the feast. A server offers to carve some meat for Lekan, who gratefully accepts. As he takes a bite, Lekan savors the delicious, well-spiced flavor. Observing the celebration, Lekan reflects on this world's customs, realizing that at 14, Luvianafel is now considered a full-fledged adult. Luvianafel, sitting at the head table, understands the gravity of her new status. She is now permitted to marry. A guest jokingly comments on Lekan's large appetite as he enjoys the chicken. The man offers him some rare wine from the royal capital, which Lekan agrees to have. Just then, Ezak approaches and asks for a private word. Lekan agrees and Ezak leads him to a quieter corner. There, Ezak apologizes for the suddenness of his request but asks Lekan to avoid the library for a while. Lekan asks if his presence would cause trouble, but Ezak reassures him that no one in the house is suspicious of him. Ezak explains that starting tomorrow, messengers from other noble families will be visiting to congratulate Luvianafel. He worries that someone with an unclear identity like Lekan being near her might be used by others to find fault. Daughters of nobility, he explains, are burdened with forging alliances through blood relations, and everyone is desperate to be seen as a good candidate. Lekan understands the situation and agrees, prompting a quiet apology from Ezak. Lekan walks through a vast, untamed wilderness. He considers his options, walking through the tall grass. He decides that for now, he can use this time to go on trips without constraint. He ventures deeper into the mountains, hoping to encounter a formidable magical beast. Suddenly, his senses are alerted to a presence. He realizes it's an exceptionally strong magical beast. He is surprised to find such a strong creature only 3 days into his excursion. Lekan draws his sword, ready for a fight. The beast is still too far to be captured by his sensor, so Lekan decides to close in while hidden by the terrain. He finally catches sight of it. A massive creature with armored legs stomps in the water. It has another creature clamped in its powerful jaws. The magical beast is a strange, hulking creature covered in long, sharp quills with a long snout and a single large eye. Lekan analyzes the creature. He has never seen a magical beast like this, let alone one with 3 eyes, and notes its enormous size. He notes its 6 short legs, concluding it probably isn't very fast. He wonders what his next move should be. Unsure of its weaknesses, he deems a direct assault too dangerous. He weighs the risk of attacking before it notices him. From his vantage point, Lekan continues to observe the massive beast. His expression is grim and determined. He concludes that it's no good, challenging it now would be reckless. Deciding to withdraw for the day, Lekan begins to pull back. However, his foot snaps a twig. The sound instantly alerts the beast, which whips its head around. Lekan is shocked that it found him. A volley of quills shoots out from the tall grass toward his position. Realizing the danger, Lekan uses wind magic to propel himself away. The beast unleashes a barrage of sharp quills. The deadly projectiles tear through the air where he just stood. Lekan marvels at the beast's incredible power. He uses burst after burst of wind magic to evade the attacks. He knows this spell isn't meant for flying, but he has no choice, realizing he can't create any more distance. Suddenly the attacks stop, and he wonders if the beast has given up. The beast rears back, preparing another strike. Lekan realizes it's preparing to strike, and quickly casts wind magic to dodge. Another volley of projectiles shoots past him, and he grunts as he narrowly avoids the blow. A cloud of cold air envelops the area as the beast prepares another attack. Lekan feels the chill and braces himself. He knows he's screwed if he takes a direct hit with his current equipment. He decides his only chance is to make it to the forest, where the trees can block the projectiles and allow him to escape. He manages to run 100 feet into the woods, thinking he should be able to get away. He stops but then feels a tremor. He looks back, unnerved by the beast's relentless pursuit. The creature smashes through the trees behind him. The beast carves a path of destruction through the forest, leveling trees as it barrels forward with unstoppable force. The creature continues its rampage, closing the distance. Lekan grows frustrated, realizing he's making no progress in escaping. He wonders what he can possibly do against such a relentless foe. Lekan leaps away, using another burst of wind magic. He pushes himself forward to gain some distance. The beast slams into the ground behind him, creating a massive crater. Finally, the beast seems to halt its pursuit, watching as Lekan escapes. It stands amidst the wreckage. The beast lets out a final snort. It finally turns away. Having finally escaped, Lekan rests against a tree, exhausted by the unbelievable power of the magical beast. He realizes he needs to prepare in various ways to fight it and must first replenish his magic. He remembers the magic medicine provided by the Zydmore household. He pulls out the vial and decides to try it. He drinks the potion and immediately recoils. He is shocked by the horrible taste, wondering if it's even safe to drink. He waits for the effects but feels no sign of regeneration. He concludes that for such an unpleasant experience, the slow effects aren't worth it. Dissatisfied, he considers using the medicine he brought from his former world instead. Lekan realizes the magic medicine he has is no longer sufficient and he needs to find a replacement. He knows that if he were to face that magical beast again, he likely wouldn't be left unscathed. As the sun rises, he makes his way back towards civilization. He arrives at the estate. Walking through the courtyard, he is surprised by something he sees. Parked in front of the mansion is an ornate carriage. Lekan deduces that an aristocrat must be staying over. He figures the guest must have arrived from a distant place while he was out. He notes that it is a terribly luxurious carriage. A few days later, under the night sky, Lekan is resting in his hut. He is suddenly jolted awake, sensing something amiss. He senses a magical being on the estate grounds, heading for the main building at high speed. He knows that Luvi and Marinka are inside. He grabs his sword. He rushes out, identifying the presence as an invader. A hooded figure moves silently through the estate grounds. They begin scaling the exterior wall of the mansion with practiced ease. The intruder ascends quickly, moving from ledge to ledge with silent, fluid motions. They land softly on a rooftop, ready to continue their infiltration. Lekan, alerted to the presence, watches the figure from below. He immediately recognizes the precise movements of a skillful assassin. He quickly pieces together the assassin's trajectory. The intruder is heading directly for Luffy's bedroom. Knowing the stairs will be too slow, he resolves to take a more direct route. Lekan chants an incantation, summoning the wind to his aid. With powerful gusts of wind magic, Lekan launches himself upwards. He vaults up the side of the building in a desperate race against time. The assassin rappels down from the roof, positioning themselves outside the window. Inside, Luffy sleeps soundly, unaware of the danger approaching her window. The intruder begins to pry the window open. Just as the assassin prepares to enter, Lekan appears, soaring through the air to intercept them. The hooded figure is startled by his sudden arrival. Lekan's face is a mask of grim determination. In a swift motion, Lekan cuts the assassin's rope. The intruder's hood is thrown back, revealing a young woman with wide, shocked eyes. She plummets to the ground below. Lekan lands quietly at the window, looking in on the sleeping Luffy. She murmurs his name, Mr. Wolf, in her sleep. He lets out a weary sigh, the immediate danger averted. Later, Lekan stands with Luffy's father and Ezak over the fallen intruder. The Lord grimly acknowledges that this person was aiming for his daughter. He admits that his own precautions, like posting guards at her door, were naive since the assassin came through the window. Luffy's father explains that her impending marriage to the noble Shadrest family is politically charged. He had expected interference from rival families who disapprove of her rise, but not an assassination attempt. He admits that without Lekan, the situation would have been dire. Ezak questions if capturing her was an option. Lekan explains the assassin possessed magic and could use a powerful long-range skill, making her too dangerous to be left alive. Ezak laments the extreme measures taken by the assassin. Luffy's father tells him that captured assassins simply choose death, making any interrogation futile. Ezak still wishes they could have at least gotten her employer's name, but the Lord insists she wouldn't have confessed. He adds that even if they knew the mastermind, there is little they could do. Therefore, he concludes, it is better not to know at all. The Lord praises Lekan, noting he was the only one to sense the intruder and commending his splendid performance. Curious about Lekan's ability to scale the wall, he asks if it's some kind of special power. When Lekan remains silent, the Lord accepts it's a secret. He officially thanks him and formally requests that he continue protecting his daughter, to which Lekan agrees. The threat is not over. That night, another assassin infiltrates the estate. They scale the outer wall of the estate. The figure, armed with a crossbow, takes up a sniper's position. Before the crossbowman can even take aim, Lekan appears behind him in a blur of motion. The assassin is utterly shocked, unable to comprehend his sudden appearance. Lekan stands over the dispatched fourth intruder, noting the enemy's persistence. He realizes he won't be able to leave the estate until Luffy's wedding is safely concluded. Sometime later, Lekan is summoned by Luffy for a talk. She peppers him with questions about the food in his supposed homeland. She asks about the clothes worn by nobles there, and even about the sweets. Lekan finds her unusually talkative, deducing it has been a while since they spoke properly. He muses on the legend of the Laenvi, people from another world, realizing this is what she believes him to be. Lekan reflects that while legends say Laenvi possess outstanding power, they are considered mere myth. Yet it seems Luffy truly believes he is one. Their conversation is interrupted by an attendant reminding the young lady of her other appointments. Luffy thanks Lekan for his time and he prepares to depart. As Lekan turns to leave, he bids her farewell. Luffy looks on with a serious, hesitant expression. She suddenly calls out for him to wait. Addressing him as my wolf, she says she has a request. She asks to see the red jewel he wears on his chest. Lekan is visibly shocked by her request. He internally curses, having tried to make sure no one would see it. He wonders how she could have possibly noticed it. A nearby maid quietly observes the exchange. He reluctantly places the dark, ornate jewel on a silver platter. Luffy picks it up, admiring its beauty. She then unexpectedly puts the necklace on. Luffy holds the jewel around her neck, trying it on. She then offers her own precious necklace to her maid, Marinka. The older attendant, Grier, protests loudly, but Luffy calmly tells her it is fine. Lekan watches in horror as he realizes her intention. He silently pleads for her to stop, to not do what he thinks she is about to do. Luffy simply calls his name, Mr. Wolf. Luvi makes her proposal clear. She will give him her jewel in exchange for his. Lekan is stunned into silence by the offer. Lekan knows that to others, a wanderer's stone holds no value compared to a noble lady's jewel. He understands the cultural weight of her offer. It is a formal bestowal, a reward making him a retainer. To refuse this exchange would bring her great shame. However, she does not know the true value of his jewel, a rare stone that restores both stamina and magic. He obtained it in a labyrinth and invested his entire fortune to have it crafted. It is a priceless item that has supported all his adventures since. The jewel is the very proof of his life and struggles. He considers that if he refuses, he will no longer be able to stay at the estate, and above all, Luvi will be upset. Despite the consequences, he feels he cannot hand it over. Despite his internal turmoil, Lekan bows his head and accepts the exchange. Luvi gives him a gentle, earnest smile. Lekan is shocked by his own decision. He quickly leaves the room. He questions why he consented to the exchange. He resigns himself to the decision, figuring he will leave the estate soon enough anyway. He plans to make the exchange and then slip away from the estate for good, just before the wedding preparations begin. He walks down the hall thinking that while Luvi might be sad, she would eventually forget him. However, he never got the chance to leave. In the days that followed, Luvi was busy with her wedding preparations. She was constantly surrounded by helpers, and the number of guards on night watch increased, leaving him no opportunity. Just 2 days later, the time came. Lady Luvianafel, dressed for her journey, prepared to depart. Her carriage set off, taking her to a faraway town to be married. In the quiet aftermath of Luvi's departure, a listless air hangs over the estate. Lekan sits alone under a large tree, gazing blankly at a field of vegetables. An older man named Morda approaches, observing Lekan and asking if he finds the vegetables interesting. Morda offers Lekan a griffel leaf to chew, which he accepts. He chides Lekan for eating the expensive leaf so quickly. The two sit together in silence for a moment. Morda remarks that the knights haven't been training lately and wonders if something happened. Lekan admits to simply having no motivation. Morda corrects him, saying it's more like he has no energy. He notes that this feeling is shared by everyone, including Ezak, since the young lady left. The estate has grown lonely now that she is to be married. Lekan silently thinks of Luvi. He acknowledges that for someone alone in a different world, she had given him a place to belong. He resolves to repay her kindness and leave the estate, but wonders how. A shadowy image of a monstrous creature comes to mind. An idea forms in his mind, the magical beast. He knows it is an opponent far beyond the capabilities of the estate's knights. Lekan decides that what he can do is fight. He will repay Luvi's kindness through combat. He goes to the armory but finds no spears suitable for fighting large beasts, considering bombs only a last resort. He decides to engage the beast once more. His first priority is to confirm its abilities, everything else will come after that. Clad in his dark cloak, he sets out, moving swiftly across the landscape. The massive beast charges, rolling into a destructive ball of spikes. Lekan quickly casts wind magic to evade. He successfully dodges the creature's straightforward assault. He realizes he can bait the creature into a charge, as it cannot change direction quickly. The beast crashes to a halt, its back a mass of spikes. Its strange, almost reptilian face turns towards him. Its third eye, located on its forehead, swivels to lock onto him. Seeing his chance, Lekan leaps into the air, preparing to strike. He brings his sword down on the beast with a triumphant cry. His attack is met with shocking resistance. Lekan is stunned by the outcome. The beast's hide is unbelievably hard and flexible, and his blade failed to even reach the bone. The beast snarls, completely unfazed by the blow. Realizing the danger, Lekan prepares to retreat. The beast shakes off the ineffective blow. He quickly casts another wind spell to create distance. The beast's third eye glows ominously. Lekan is caught off guard by the sudden turn of events. It unleashes a powerful barrage of spikes. His weapon is shattered by the force of the assault. Disarmed and outmatched, Lekan knows he must distance himself. He uses a rapid succession of wind spells to propel himself away. He makes a swift retreat from the battlefield. The beast roars in frustration as its opponent escapes. Back at the estate, he stumbles into his room. Wounded and exhausted from the encounter, he collapses onto his bed. He reflects on how dangerous the fight was, Noting the beast's combined breath and needle attack, he realizes he only survived because of a top-grade magical potion. This highlights his own ignorance of local potion ingredients, a problem he needs to solve. He resolves to find a doctor to learn production methods, though he doesn't have high hopes. Still, the fight was valuable. He now understands the beast's power and knows there is a way to defeat it. The problem, however, is how to attack. He doubts he'll get another chance to strike its eyes, and its exposed neck is hard to reach. He considers that a weapon might pierce its throat, but it's a risky move. He knows he must fight it again soon to find a way to escape. The longer he waits, the harder the beast will be to defeat. Lekan tracks the beast through the wilderness. Its powerful magic makes it easy to sense, and he soon locates it. He finds it in a clearing, curled up and sleeping. He realizes this is an unexpected opportunity to strike while it's sleeping. He glances at the jewel Luvi gave him, musing that there were some benefits to their exchange. He prepares his approach, moving silently through the tall grass. He stalks closer to the sleeping creature. With the beast vulnerable, he knows he can choose his first strike. He considers the throat and flank as potential targets. He quickly dismisses them. He decides his target must be the third eye, believing its destruction will give him the upper hand. He lunges forward, sword ready to strike. Suddenly, the beast's third eye snaps open. Lekan is shocked by the sudden turn of events. A strange force seems to push him, causing his attack to veer away from his target. Despite being pushed off course, his sword strikes true, cutting into the beast's hide. Lekan is shocked, wondering how he managed to cut it in the same place that previously resisted his attack. A deep gash is now visible on the beast's body. The beast recoils in pain. It lets out a pained roar as black blood sprays from the wound. Lekan dodges the beast's frantic counterattack. He looks at the wound, pondering what has changed since his last attempt. His eyes widen in realization. He looks at the treasure jewel Luvi gave him. He wonders if the accessory is amplifying his offensive ability. He recalls defeating someone with a similar slash-attack ability in his former world, but at a terrible price. The idea that an accessory could grant such power seems impossible. But the improbable truth is that his sword cut the beast. With this newfound power, he is certain he can defeat it. Lekan braces himself as the beast prepares to attack. The wounded beast turns as if to flee, but he knows it's a feint. It whirls around and unleashes another volley of spikes. He dodges with a burst of wind. He realizes the beast is out of ammo. Its frontal spikes didn't regenerate from their last fight, proving it was the right decision to face it again so soon. With the beast's ranged attack depleted, Lekan presses his advantage. He reasons that if the beast is going to follow him, it will have to face him head-on. This will give him the opening he needs. The beast unleashes its breath attack. Lekan is prepared, keeping his distance and confident that the bear king hide he wears can endure the assault. The beast resorts to its rolling charge once more. The creature's rolling attack tears through the landscape. Knowing it's difficult to evade in the dense forest, Lekan lures it into a rocky, open area. He leaps across the treacherous terrain. The beast crashes and stumbles in the uneven terrain. This gives Lekan the perfect opening. He uses a final burst of wind. He closes the distance for a finishing blow. With the full power of the jewel amplifying his strike, Lekan drives his sword deep into the beast's throat, ending the battle. The massive magical beast lies dead at his feet. Lekan takes a moment, his duty fulfilled. He knows he can now depart without reserve, ready for his new adventure to begin. The eldest of the group, his face etched with worry, asks if he is an adventurer. While resting by a fire, Lekan is approached by 3 men. Lekan takes a bite of his meal, confirming that he is indeed an adventurer. Lekan listens intently as the men state their purpose. The men explain they are from a nearby village and have a favor to ask. A younger villager blurts out that a creature they call a white ghost, a Zog, has appeared. Lekan's unfamiliarity with the term surprises the men. He explains that he is from the north and doesn't know the local language well, prompting the villager to begin his explanation. The villager explains that a Zog is a type of ghost, a spirit that spontaneously generates in forests. It looks like a human but has no eyes and grows horns. He warns that it is extremely powerful and eats people. Lekan listens, taking in the details of the creature. Their trouble began when a child was abducted. The parents went into the forest to search, thinking it was a beast. The tale continues. The mother was attacked but the father escaped, confirming the creature was a Zog. Now the forest is too dangerous for anyone to enter, as the ghosts are too much for them to handle. Lekan cuts straight to the point, asking about the reward. They can only offer a single silver nugget. Though the pay is low, Lekan sees it as a perfect first request to gain experience and information about this new world. Lekan accepts the job. The villagers are overjoyed and thank him profusely. He adds his own conditions, a place to stay overnight and meals for which he will pay extra. The men eagerly agree and offer to guide him. He is led to their small, quiet village. His lodging for the night is an old stable. He accepts it without complaint, knowing that as long as it offers shelter, it is enough. Though it's a far cry from the Zydmore's estate, he understands this is part of his new life. Lekan recalls his departure, where he was advised to say he came from the north and to keep his true nature a secret. As a parting gift for the magic stone he had given them, he received a heavy pouch of currency. He accepted the generous gift with thanks. He bid farewell to his friend, promising to meet again. The entire household saw him off, wishing him luck on his journey. The next day, the bearded villager guides Lekan into the forest. The man points out the rock where the mother was attacked. Lekan notes how dangerously close the location is to the village. He examines the scene, finding traces of blood that confirm this is where the attack happened. As the villager prepares to leave, Lekan tells him to wait. He announces that he has already found the ghost, stunning the villager. Lekan explains that the creature is within a 300-foot radius. He warns the terrified man not to leave his side. They venture deeper into the woods. Ahead, a strange, root-like creature hangs from a tree. Lekan identifies it as their target. He moves forward, drawing his sword. The Zog reveals its true form, a monstrous eyeless humanoid with small horns, letting out a guttural roar. The creature's face is a gaping maw, devoid of features. Lekan prepares for battle, unfazed by its horrifying appearance. Lekan sizes up his opponent, calmly waiting to see how the Zog will attack. The creature lurches forward, swinging its massive arm. Lekan prepares to dodge the clumsy strike. He easily dodges the attack. He assesses the Zog's strength, noting that it is powerful. However, its sluggish movements and low intelligence mean it's not a real threat. With a single swift strike, Lekan prepares to end the fight. He easily dispatches the creature. The Zog's head flies through the air, its body collapsing behind him. Lekan and the villager return from the forest. The man is relieved to see him safe and asks if he found any Zog. Lekan apologizes, explaining that he completed the request. He tells them the ghost's body turned to dust upon defeat, leaving no magic stone as proof. The villagers are shocked that he has already defeated it and assure him that proof isn't necessary. With the job done, Lekan has one more thing to ask. He inquires about any good doctors in the area. The elder suggests he travel to the flourishing town of Vauca. Deciding he needs to restock on recovery potions, Lekan resolves to head there next. Lekan arrives at a post-station town. He observes the bustling streets filled with people and carriages. He notes that while small, the town has services going to Vauca. He decides his first step should be to find some connections and get a meal at a tavern. He enters a lively establishment. The tavern is grilling fresh kebabs. He approaches the counter and orders 5 kebabs and some steak. An old man with a long white beard enters the tavern. The man looks around the room. He spots Lekan and approaches him with interest. Lekan continues to enjoy his food, seemingly unaware. The old man studies Lekan for a moment. He calls out to him. Lekan turns, surprised to be addressed. The man identifies him as an adventurer and offers him an escort job. Lekan considers the offer. The job is a 4-day trip for 10 silver nuggets. The old man explains he needs to get to Vauca, which immediately piques Lekan's interest. Seeing a perfect opportunity to get paid for a trip he was already planning to take, Lekan decides to accept. He agrees to the job. The old man, Afin, is thrilled and says he will introduce him to the shipper. After finishing his meal, Lekan pays his bill. Outside, Afin excitedly calls out to a man named Cheney, announcing he's found a good person for the job. Cheney, the shipper, greets Afin. He sizes up Lekan, remarking that he looks like a seasoned warrior. Cheney introduces himself, and Lekan does the same. Cheney explains that both of his original escorts fell ill, so he'll be depending on 2 new people. Lekan questions this just as another person makes a dramatic entrance. A young woman leaps onto the carriage, introducing herself as Edda. She proudly flashes a pendant. She dismissively calls Lekan unregistered and declares herself a gold-class adventurer. Lekan realizes this energetic young woman is his fellow escort. Cheney urges Edda to get down, but she insists on standing guard from her high vantage point. Lekan observes her, thinking she looks about Luvy's age but doesn't seem like much of an adventurer. He asks what unregistered and gold class mean. Edda gives him a condescending look, surprised he doesn't know about the organization. Afin confirms that Lekan isn't registered with the adventurer organization. He explains that the organization assigns classes based on ability, and registering in Voka makes it easier to find work. Edda boasts about her gold class status, warning Lekan not to underestimate her. Cheney, eager to get moving, announces their immediate departure. He tells Edda to get off the carriage and walk, much to her dismay. Lekan silently dismisses Edda as useless, wondering why she'd make the carriage heavier when they're in a rush. He questions how such a novice could receive a salary from the organization. Still, he senses a fair amount of magic from her, speculating she might have talent as a sorcerer. Afin tells Lekan he's counting on him for the next 4 days. Afin privately thinks that Cheney must have a secret weapon in mind. Lekan attempts to organize their marching ranks, suggesting he take the lead. Edda angrily objects, questioning why the unregistered bastard is giving orders. She declares that as a gold class, she will decide and take the lead. Lekan doesn't argue, and Edda announces their departure. He simply warns her to be careful, as the person in front is always the first to be targeted. His words give her a moment of pause. After a brief moment of hesitation, Edda seems to reconsider. She scoffs and runs ahead, claiming she's doing Lekan a favor by letting him take the credit. The group finally sets off, with Edda running far ahead and Lekan walking steadily in front of the carriage. As night falls, the journey continues. The path is illuminated by a magic tool. Lekan observes the lantern, recognizing it as a magic tool. He is impressed by its bright, steady light, which allows them to travel after sunset. Eventually, Cheney calls for a halt, announcing it's time to set up camp. The group makes camp for the night. Lekan quickly returns with a large bundle of firewood. Cheney is impressed by how much he's gathered. The shipper also praises his skill in navigating the dark mountain road without losing pace. Unfazed by the compliments, Lekan simply states he will make the hearth. Cheney sets up another magic tool on a staff. It emits a soft, protective glow. Lekan asks if its light wards off evil spirits. Cheney confirms it's a rare tool for that purpose, and Lekan remarks that it felt similar to magic he knows. Lekan then gets to work building the fire to Cheney's specifications. Cheney uses yet another magic tool to instantly light the fire. Lekan muses on the shipper's wealth and the prevalence of such items in Voka. Afin compliments the quick work and begins preparing a meal. He then asks what they should do about the young lady. Cheney cynically wonders if she'll even remember she's on a job and catch up. Lekan finds the remark harsh. Afin explains that Edda tried to keep up, but fell behind after their 3rd break. Lekan adds that his life sensor shows she has stopped moving, likely having run into something. Finding it pitiful for her to become beast food, Afin asks Lekan for a favor. He asks Lekan to go and retrieve her before the meal is ready. Lekan is reluctant, thinking an escort shouldn't leave their client. Afin assures them the evil spirit protection will keep them safe. With Cheney's approval as his client, Lekan agrees to go. Cheney offers him the magic lantern for the journey. Lekan refuses, stating that the light from the stars is enough for him. Lekan ventures into the darkness. He spots the camp in the distance. He senses that something is wrong, feeling a bad premonition. Deciding he can't be frugal, he prepares to use his magic. He casts a wind spell to propel himself forward at great speed. He rushes through the forest, using repeated bursts of wind magic. Fortunately, Edda's strong magical powers make her easy to track. He resolves to find her as fast as possible and return. Back at the camp, the stew bubbles over the fire. The horses are restless. Afin notices their agitation. He decides to check on them while Cheney tends to the fire. As he walks away, he senses something. He is suddenly startled by an unexpected presence. Lekan appears out of the darkness, announcing he has retrieved Edda. Afen is shocked at his incredibly fast return. Lekan explains that she was surprisingly close. Afen mutters in disbelief, while Cheney looks on in concern. On Lekan's shoulder, Edda begins to stir. Edda wakes up and immediately clamors for food. Cheney informs her that Lekan brought her back. She seems embarrassed and makes an excuse about a tree being in a strange place. Undeterred, she again demands food, and Afen tells her to wait. As the others rest, Lekan opens his eyes. He notes that dawn will be soon. Thanks to the magic ward, the campsite itself was safe. However, his senses tell him something is terribly wrong. A massive number of magical beasts, 200 of them, are gathering just at the edge of the protective barrier. Lekan urgently wakes Edda. He informs her that they must depart immediately, with no time for food. Edda complains about having to move without eating. Cheney explains that Lekan has sensed 200 magical beasts closing in, leaving Edda stunned. Cheney admits that he forgot the magic stone he was using attracts magical beasts. Lekan questions their plan to simply move on with the protection activated. He explains that the beasts would continue to follow them. The horrifying realization dawns on Cheney. Leading the horde to a town would mean its destruction. Afen worries about the punishment they would receive for such an act. Lekan decides they must leave the ward active for the time being. He states they'll handle the problem once they leave the plains, and Cheney agrees to follow his lead. Ignoring Edda's questions about food, Lekan tells the group to eat preserved rations and get moving. The carriage lurches forward as they make their hasty escape. The carriage travels quickly down the path. Lekan calls out a warning to be careful, as they will soon be out of the forest. The others look on with concern. From the shadows of the woods, two large beasts watch the carriage pass. As they clear the trees, a massive horde of magical beasts emerges behind them. The creatures are ferocious and varied. Edda cries out in alarm as the beasts appear. Lekan observes that only about half the beasts they attracted have followed them from the mountain. Edda panics, exclaiming that even with half the number, it's an impossible force to face. Someone suggests getting help from the garrison in Voka. Cheney shouts that they can't, as it would mean destroying a village on the way. He turns to Lekan, desperately asking what they should do. Lekan silently assesses the situation, deciding to wait for a clearer picture before acting. Lekan identifies the approaching horde as low-level magical beasts like bears, boars, and wolves. His life sensor confirms that none of them possess significant magical power. He tells Edda to protect the carriage. With that, he dashes off to confront the beasts alone. Lekan charges headfirst into the horde, his sword ablur as he cuts down beast after beast. The battle is a maelstrom of violence as creatures roar and fall. His blade finds its mark again and again. He slices through the tough hides of the magical beasts with ease. Lekan faces a large horned beast, completely undaunted. He dodges a bear-like creature's swipe and counters with a powerful blow. Without pausing, he ducks under another attack. He drives his gauntleted fist into a monster's jaw, shattering it. Lekan is a force of destruction, a single dark figure carving a path through the sea of monsters. He moves with brutal efficiency, leaving a trail of defeated beasts in his wake. In what feels like moments, the battle is over. Lekan stands alone amidst a field of fallen monsters. He sheathes his sword. He walks back to the carriage, telling his stunned companions that he has cleaned up the mess. Cheney and Afen are in awe, amazed by his swordsmanship, and that he wasn't even splattered with blood. Edda, equally impressed, asks if Lekan used to be a title holder. She then excitedly asks to see his famous sword, but he flatly refuses. Her attention then shifts to a ring on his hand, which she finds stylish. Lekan simply confirms he wears it. On the morning of the third day, the group is camped. Edda complains about being targeted by red monkeys the previous night. Lekan calls her name and points out her scarf. She proudly says her yellow scarf is cute, but Lekan explains the bright color makes her an easy target. Edda is flustered, wishing he had told her sooner. Cheney thanks Lekan for ensuring their safe passage, hopeful they will arrive by evening. Lekan reminds him that their journey isn't over yet. Edda, however, believes the danger has passed and tells him to relax. Lekan suddenly becomes alert. He orders the carriage to a halt, startling Afen. He reveals he senses 4 people hiding 800 feet ahead on both sides of the road. Cheney realizes it's an ambush, while Afen marvels at Lekan's incredible detection ability. Lekan instructs them to proceed another 500 feet while he goes ahead to deal with the threat. Cheney agrees to Lekan's plan. Edda eagerly declares it's her turn to fight, assuming they are bandits. Lekan dryly reminds her she couldn't even hit the monkeys, but she protests that it was too dark to aim. This leads Lekan to ask if she can use magic. Edda is offended by the question, stating she can't use such things. The carriage proceeds down the narrow path. As they approach the 500-foot mark, Lekan tells them to stop, explaining the ambushers are now in range of his 3D sensor. He warns Cheney that if things look dangerous, he should flee. He instructs Edda to ready her bow but not to shoot, as it would put them at a disadvantage. Promising he'll be back, Lekan vanishes into the trees. Lekan quickly locates the ambushers. He notes they are well equipped, with a swordsman and an archer on each side. Their skill at hiding their presence is admirable, far beyond that of typical bandits. He deduces they must have known the carriage's route and timing in advance. With this information, he feels he understands the situation. Moving with silent speed, Lekan closes in on one of the swordsmen. The man is startled as Lekan appears from nowhere. He has no time to react before Lekan drives a dagger into his side. As one bandit falls, Lekan is already moving to the next, a blur of motion. The archer in the tree spots the attack and curses. Lekan leaps from the ground, closing the distance in an instant. Lekan unleashes a blast of wind magic. The archer is caught completely off guard. The force slams into him, knocking him from his perch. With only one enemy left, Lekan turns his attention to the final bandit. He notices the man is holding a strange, gun-like weapon. He realizes it's a magic tool. Lekan casts another wind spell just as the man prepares to fire. The bandit cries out as the wind spell diverts his aim. He fires the magic tool, unleashing a blast of energy. Lekan closes in for the final strike. A loud explosion echoes through the forest. Edda, perched atop the carriage, calls out Lekan's name in alarm. Afen expresses his concern, suggesting to Cheney that they should go check on him. As the carriage moves forward, Edda spots Lekan. He returns, dragging the last bandit behind him, and questions why they moved against his orders. Edda rushes to check if he's okay and asks about the explosion. Lekan holds up the magic tool, explaining it was a powerful weapon, but he managed because the wielder was subpar. Lekan suggests interrogating the captured bandit, who could still be saved. Afen advises against it, urging them to hurry on. Lekan then reveals a crucial detail: the bandits were wearing adventurer badges. Edda is outraged that registered adventurers would act as bandits. Lekan speculates the badges were likely stolen or belonged to someone deceased. Since there's no way to know their origin, he decides there's no point in staying. The group gets moving once more. At last, the town of Vokar comes into view, and Edda cheers in celebration. As they approach, Afen suggests they pull off the road. He says he wants to wash up at the riverbed before entering town, and Cheney agrees. Edda washes her face in the cool water. She splashes joyfully in the river, feeling revived after the long journey. Afen watches them from the carriage, then calls out to Cheney, asking if he will join them. Cheney declines, stating he doesn't want to let go of the box he is holding. Afen calls out to him, questioning his refusal. Afen calls him cautious, but seems to accept his decision. Suddenly, Lekan casts a sleep spell. A dark energy washes over the area, causing Afen to collapse into the water. Cheney looks on in shock. Cheney demands to know what Afen is doing, and Afen reveals he put them to sleep. Lekan, holding the sleeping Edda, clarifies that they will be sleeping forever. Afen's eyes fall on the magic gun, and he understands. Cheney, seeing the bandit now standing beside Afen, realizes he has been betrayed. Cheney is stunned that Afen can use magic, something he hid from him. He questions why a magic user would work as a simple coachman. Afen scoffs at the idea of working for income. The truth dawns on Cheney. For 5 years, Afen was never his coachman, but an agent working for another employer. The man declares that Afen does not exist. His true name is Marakis. Cheney recognizes the name of cold-blooded Marakis, an assassin thought to have been executed. Marakis laughs, revealing that faking his death was child's play for his employer Zykars. Cheney realizes with horror that Zak Zykars was behind the plot all along. Marakis gloats that he has talked too much and prepares to kill Cheney. He readies the magic tool to fire. However, Cheney calmly tells him it's fine and calls out to Lekan. Marakis is shocked to see Lekan standing right behind him, completely unaffected. Before Marakis can react, a blade flashes through the air. Lekan's sword severs the assassin's arm, and the magic tool clatters to the ground. Marakis recoils in pain, clutching the stump of his arm. He stares at Lekan in disbelief, demanding to know why the sleep spell didn't work on him. Lekan simply looks on, calmly wondering the same. With a final swift motion, Lekan's sword ends the threat. Lekan tells the defeated assassin he has no reason to answer him, stating that he has only seen him make errors. Marakis, drunk on his momentary victory, had foolishly revealed his secrets and paid the ultimate price. The town of Vorka is a bustling place with tightly packed buildings. Lekan sits up in bed, having just woken up. He rubs his neck, feeling the fatigue from the long journey. Lekan exits his room, thinking the lodging place is quite good. From the floor below, Edda spots him and wishes him a good morning. She enthusiastically praises the food and invites him to eat with her. Lekan remains silent and unimpressed by her outburst. Edda calls him cold, reminding him that they are comrades. Lekan downplays Edda's role, saying she only messed with the red monkeys. The innkeeper approaches their table and offers Lekan breakfast. A hearty meal of eggs, bread, and meat is served. Lekan takes a bite of the bread. He thinks the food tastes good, but the portion size is lacking. He calls out to the innkeeper for another plate, and Edda chimes in, wanting more food as well. Lekan thinks back to the previous night, when Cheney handed Marakis over to the gods. At noon, Cheney arrives at their lodging house. He sits with Lekan and Edda, thanking them for their success and announcing his association's return to prominence. Lekan says that's good to hear, while Edda expresses her desire to know the details. Edda points out that Lekan is no longer wearing the ring from yesterday. Lekan inwardly grumbles that Edda notices such unnecessary things. He remembers how the ring's resistance to abnormal states protected him from the sleep spell. Cheney announces it's time for their reward, addressing Edda first. He pushes 2 silver nuggets towards her. Edda stares in disbelief at the small payment. She angrily confronts Cheney, reminding him that the reward was supposed to be 5 nuggets. In response to her outburst, Cheney calmly asks to see her adventurer medal. Edda defiantly holds out her medal, insisting on its authenticity. Cheney takes the medal and examines it closely. He asks if her full name is Eddadal, to which she nervously confirms that Edda is just her nickname. Cheney observes that her name sounds like a boy's name. Edda laughs, saying that's why she was raised to be tough. Cheney reveals that the silver class promotion on her medal happened 18 years ago, then asks for her age. Edda stammers, unable to give a convincing answer. She shouts in frustration, knowing she's been found out. As Edda gets agitated, Lekan grabs her arm to restrain her. The 2 silver nuggets fall onto the table. He forces her back into her seat, telling her to sit down. Cheney explains that using another's adventurer medal is a serious offense. Edda insists the medal is a memento from her father, but Cheney explains that doesn't make it hers. Cheney correctly guesses that she is an unregistered adventurer. He explains that adventurer organizations, lords, and merchants are all connected in a wide network. He warns her that if she's found out, she won't be able to register officially in the future. Edda is left speechless by the severe consequences. Cheney shows mercy, deciding to let it go this once out of respect for her father. Edda dejectedly thanks him and agrees not to do it again. She quietly walks away from the table and up the stairs. Cheney apologizes for the scene and prepares to give Lekan his payment. He places a single, heavy coin on the table. Lekan is shocked, realizing the payment is a gold nugget. He tells Cheney that the amount is too much. Cheney explains that Lekan's performance merits the increased reward. He states that this is his way of expressing a wish to build a favorable relationship. Lekan understands and accepts the generous payment. Lekan seizes the opportunity to ask Cheney for a favor regarding his future. He requests an introduction to a skilled doctor, explaining his desire to learn medicine. Cheney considers the request thoughtfully. He tells Lekan that one person who fits the description does indeed come to mind. Cheney warns that the doctor is a difficult person who never takes apprentices, but he will try to arrange a meeting. Lekan accepts, planning to negotiate directly once he meets her. Thanks to Cheney, Lekan follows a map through an obscure alley to find the doctor's house. He pauses, contemplating what he will find at his destination. He checks the map one last time, confirming his path. He wonders if this is truly the place he's looking for. A powerful aura emanates from the end of the alley, stopping Lekan in his tracks. Lekan realizes the source of the immense magic power is the one place in town he had been avoiding. He wonders what kind of person this doctor could possibly be. He turns the corner, his expression grim. Before him stands a rustic wooden house, enclosed by a tall fence and an overgrown garden. Lekan observes that a wooden building is a rare sight in this town. He sees no direct path or entrance to the house. He follows the fence line as indicated by the map. He finds an opening in the thick hedges. This leads him to a hidden stone path and the house's true entrance. He stands before the door, knowing the source of the magic power is inside. He raises his hand and knocks. A voice from within asks for his identity. Lekan introduces himself, stating he was sent by Cheney. The voice acknowledges him and invites him in. He reaches for the handle and pushes the door open. He cautiously enters, uncertain of what awaits him. The first thing Lekan sees is a large, muscular, ape-like creature. Lekan stares back unfazed. The creature looks at him with wide, curious eyes and lets out a grunt. Lekan quickly dismisses the absurd idea that the monkey is the doctor. A voice beckons him from a nearby doorway. He excuses his intrusion and steps through the doorway. He enters another room, his eyes scanning the surroundings. The room is filled with shelves holding countless jars. On a workbench, he sees various tools for preparing medicine. A figure emerges from the side. An old woman acknowledges him as the one who helped Cheney. She sits in a large chair and introduces herself as Sheila. As Lekan starts to speak, Sheila tells him to wait, not wanting him to stand. She calls out to her companion, Jericho, telling him to get a chair for their guest. Jericho the gorilla grunts and grabs a folding chair. He brings the chair over, and Lekan apologizes for the trouble. Lekan recognizes that there is more to Dr. Sheila than just her vast amount of magic. To the naked eye, Sheila appears to be an old woman. However, Lekan's magical senses perceive her true form as that of a young woman. Lekan questions if she is using her vast magic power to maintain a false appearance. Sheila begins by thanking him for his help in the recent event. Lekan seems confused by her mention of a recent event. She confirms that she was also involved in Cheney's situation. She then asks why he specifically wants to learn healing and magic restoration medicine. Lekan explains that as an adventurer, such medicines are always necessary for long expeditions. He states his desire to understand the items he relies on for survival. He also finds a unique satisfaction in using medicine that he himself has created. He concludes simply that he enjoys the process of making magic medicine. Sheila quietly considers his explanation. She tells him she finds his reason interesting and believes he is being truthful. She then asks him to show her some of the medicine he has made. Lekan reaches into his pouch. He presents 2 vials, one for healing and one for magic restoration, which he claims is his best work. Sheila asks how to open the unusual container, and Lekan tells her to twist the lid. Impressed, she asks where she can buy one, but Lekan says they're not for sale. Sheila calls it a shame as she holds the vial up to her eye. Lekan suspects she might have an appraisal skill. She puts a single drop of the medicine on her finger. She brings it to her lips to taste it. Sheila confirms that this is indeed magic restoration medicine. She holds the vial, remarking that while she doesn't recognize the ingredients, the effect is potent. She tells him that anyone who can make something of this quality could call themselves a competent doctor. Lekan grows concerned, wondering if he has revealed too much about his abilities. Sheila suddenly tells Lekan she wants him to take an exam. Sheila explains that she can tell he made the potions while under great strain and wants to test his endurance and resourcefulness. Lekan asks what he must do to prove himself. She directs him to the Adventurer Association to take on a ministry commission. Inside the bustling Adventurer Association, various adventurers gather. Lekan finds it calming to be among fellow adventurers. He approaches the front desk to introduce himself. The receptionist, Ira, recognizes his name and confirms he's there to register. Lekan asks if Sheila told her about him, but Ira says it was Cheney who guaranteed his talent beforehand. Lekan reflects on the merchant's sharp foresight. Ira introduces herself and prepares the registration forms. She confirms his name is simply Lekan before continuing. She asks for his birthplace, experience, and age, but he has little information to give. Ira diligently fills out the paperwork. With the forms complete, she declares the registration finished. She officially welcomes him as a copper-class adventurer and tells him to collect his medal tomorrow. Lecken's attention is drawn to the request board on the wall. Ira explains that the quests are sorted by adventurer class and he can take any copper-class quest once he has his medal. Lecken looks over the requests posted on the wall. He notes the absence of a ministry commission, and Ira confirms there isn't one posted. She clarifies that ministry commissions require a direct application at the reception. He asks her to explain what a ministry commission entails. She explains it's an aid system for the poor, funded by taxes, with a reward of only 1 copper coin. Lecken notes how cheap the reward is. However, completing them is highly valued for promotions. Lecken realizes it's a fast track to a higher adventurer rank. He asks Ira to prepare a ministry commission for him to pick up with his medal tomorrow. Lecken arrives at the location for his commission and is faced with a mountain of stone rubble. He stares at the scene in silence. The client, an old man named Forbire, bows his head in deep apology. Lecken recalls the quest details: clean up Forbire's crumbled garden stones within a single day to avoid a penalty. He looks at the massive pile, thinking it's an impossible task for one person in a day. He turns to the old man and asks what happened. Forbire explains he sold his home for his daughter's wedding and bought this cheap property with the remaining money. The land was originally a dumping site for excess rocks, which collapsed during an earthquake years ago. The rockslide destroyed his home and field, leaving him with no way to clear the debris. He resorted to building a makeshift shelter among the rocks. Lecken scoffs, questioning if the small shelter could even be called a house. Forbire sighs, saying this is his 12th request, and he's still waiting for a strong magic user to appear. He knows that moving the stones would require both a stonemason and a magic user. Lecken sees the man has been living in a small gap between the massive stones, a result of his fruitless commissions. He clenches his fist, preparing himself for the task. He rolls up his sleeves and tells the old man he will begin. He tells Forbire to just stay back while he works, leaving the old man perplexed. The old man tries to warn him off. He insists the stone is too heavy, but Lecken curtly tells him to move. Lecken grits his teeth, straining against the immense weight. His arm muscles bulge with the effort. The heavy stone begins to shift. He successfully lifts the massive stone block into the air. He strains under the weight, sweat beading on his face. His feet dig into the ground as he braces himself. Forbire watches, speechless at the display of raw power. Watching from afar, Sheila muses that every other adventurer quit when faced with such hard labor for a single copper coin. She decides the test will pass when she deems his performance sufficient. Lecken steels his resolve, determined to see the trial through. With a grunt of exertion, Lecken shifts another massive stone block into place. Forbire can only stare in disbelief at the impossible feat unfolding before him. He marvels at how the once chaotic pile of rocks has been neatly arranged. He tells the old man that with the stones cleared, his house and fields can now be rebuilt. Lecken catches his breath after the strenuous labor. Overcome with emotion, Forbire covers his face and thanks him profusely. Lecken simply holds out his hand, ready to receive his payment. He asks for the coin for completing the request. The old man quickly obliges, handing over the payment. Back at the Adventure Association, Ira notes that Lecken took 4 days to complete the series of requests. Lecken looks on stoically. He immediately asks for his next assignment. Lecken is shocked by what she offers him. Lecken finds the next request troublesome and asks for a different one. Ira holds up a scroll, explaining that this is a secret special request from Sheila herself. She reassures him that it's not dangerous, he just has to spend a day playing with the children at the orphanage. Lecken is perplexed by the task. He can handle killing, but the concept of playing is foreign and unsettling to him. Lecken asks if he can put the request off for a day. Ira happily tells him it's an open-ended request he can fulfill any time, so he decides to tackle it tomorrow. He thanks her and she asks if he'll be resting at his lodging. Lecken turns to leave, saying he's going to the forest for a bit. In the quiet of the forest, Lecken unleashes a guttural scream. A torrent of dark energy erupts from his body. The dark energy solidifies into monstrous projectiles that he hurls at a large, one-eyed beast. After the barrage, he hunches over, panting from the exertion. Kneeling in the aftermath of the battle, Lekan collects himself. He suddenly yearns to be in a maze. He almost forgot how central they were to his life. He realizes the answer to his current predicament might be found in his past experiences within them. He sits down to think, searching his memories for anything that could help him. The next day, Lekan arrives at the church orphanage. A group of children recoil in fear as he approaches. His imposing, shadowed figure looms over them. A caretaker introduces Lekan, explaining that he's here to play with them today. He offers a menacing grin and simply states his name. His terrifying expression is too much for the children. They immediately burst into tears. The caretaker sighs, pointing out that he's made them cry. Despite the disastrous start, Lekan confidently tells the caretaker that it's no problem, he has a plan. He returns the completed request's coin. Later, back at the association, Ira is delighted to hear the children had a wonderful time and even requested he come back. She's surprised he managed it, given his initial reluctance. Lekan explains that he found a hint in a maze. Lekan recounts his experience in a jungle maze with monkey-like magical beasts. He explains that they would play by throwing the heads of their prey, much to Ira's confusion. He reasoned that if it was fun for magical beasts, it might be fun for human children too, so he made them a ball of ivy. Ira points out this would likely only work for boys, but Lekan continues, recalling another maze. He mentions a maze he once conquered near the shore. He explains that female crab-like beasts would decorate each other's shells with flowers. Figuring human girls might also like flowers, he picked some for them and it worked. He concludes that his maze experience proved handy. Some children even climbed on him, which seemed to make them happy, so he let them. He admits he's not good at that sort of thing and requests a different kind of task next time. Ira then remembers something about the next request. Ira relays a message from Sheila. He has passed the exam. Lekan is surprised by how anticlimactic it is, as he was prepared for more trials. He turns to leave, glad to hear the news. Ira quickly stops him before he can go. She tells him there's just one more request she'd like him to complete. Ira explains that a strange request came in, and to be safe, she wanted to ask someone skilled like Lekan to handle it. Lekan listens silently. He agrees to hear her out and she thanks him. She reveals the request is from a famous magical beast trainer named Doni from Lumoi village. Lekan travels to Lumoi village, a settlement protected by a tall wooden fence. He finds a man carrying buckets through the village. Lekan correctly identifies him as Doni. Surprised, Doni confirms his identity and asks if Lekan is from the association. Lekan confirms his affiliation and introduces himself. He states that he heard the request was to take a magical beast for a walk, which Doni affirms. Lekan looks up and spots the creature perched high above them. Annoyed, Doni calls for his gibbon, Palido, to come down. A massive furry tail descends before them. Palido leaps down, revealing himself to be a massive gorilla-like beast. Doni proudly introduces Palido and tells him to greet their guest. The beast bows politely. Lekan is impressed, noting that Palido is even larger than Jericho and would be a formidable opponent. Doni places a hand on Palido and speaks to him. Lekan recognizes this as a magic-induced order to control the beast's actions. Doni instructs Lekan to take Palido for a walk in the forest until evening. Lekan finds the simple task odd, considering the high reward of a large silver coin. Lekan asks if Palido is prone to attacking people, but Doni vehemently denies it, assuring him the beast is kind. Doni then gives Lekan a heavy load of food for Palido. He explains that the beast eats a lot, and carrying the food is part of the tough job. Lekan asks if there's anything else he needs to watch out for. Doni hesitates for a moment. He simply tells him to let Palido do as he wishes. Lekan and Palido head out, with Lekan musing that he's supposed to just go on a carefree walk. He rests against a tree, observing the beast. As they near the forest, he notices Palido is behaving strangely. Lekan wonders what the beast is trying to do. Palido paces back and forth at the edge of the woods. He's been repeating the same hesitant movements. Lekan realizes Palido is hesitating to go deeper into the forest, an action Doni clearly didn't intend. Seeing that they're making no progress, Lekan decides he's had enough. Lekan steps forward with a menacing aura, startling Palido. The massive beast is terrified by Lekan's sudden intimidation. Palido lets out a frightened cry. Palido immediately takes a submissive stance, unable to disobey Lekan's unspoken command. The large amount of food was another clue. The reward was far too high for a simple walk. A magical beast that doesn't obey its master was the final piece. Lekan realizes he's figured out what's truly going on. As evening falls, the sun sets behind the mountains. Lekan returns to the village with Palido right behind him. Doni, who is waiting, drops his bucket in shock. He is unable to understand why Lekan has brought the beast back. Lekan announces the request is complete and asks for his coin, but Doni hesitates. Doni refuses to hand it over. He begs him to do the job one more time tomorrow, but Lekan states he completed the walk as instructed. Lekan cuts to the chase, asking if the reason he can't pay is because Lekan didn't let Palido run away. Doni is shocked that Lekan figured out the plan, confirming it was the reason. He asks how Lekan brought Palido back, even after being ordered to run away. Lekan explains that a little threat was enough to make the beast submissive, much to Doni's disbelief. Lekan clarifies that while he did threaten Palido into obeying, the beast was desperately fighting against the order to flee. Lekan admits that if Palido hadn't resisted the order, bringing him back wouldn't have been easy. He then asks Doni why he planned such a farce. Doni confesses that he doesn't want to lose Palido. He explains that wealthy people in Voka often own a gibbon from his village or a timber wolf from a rival village. Doni explains that the feudal lord used to decide which beast to keep through fights. Every 10 years, both villages would present their best beast, with the winner being offered to the lord's manor. The timber wolves won so consistently that the fight stopped. But recently the lord visited, was impressed by Palido, and decided to revive the ancient tradition. Lekan asks if that isn't an honor. Doni looks distraught, saying the village is already celebrating. The rival Bart's village was enraged, and the situation escalated into a showdown between the two villages. Both sides are eager to claim the title of purveyor to the feudal lord. Doni explains that the timber wolf and the gibbon are suited for different things. While the wolf is a terrifying fighter, the gibbon is more helpful in everyday life. Doni believes Palido would be happier helping the elderly and didn't want him to get injured just for the village's honor. Lekan surmises that since Doni couldn't disobey the lord's decision, he tried to have an adventurer release Palido. Doni would then take the blame as the fool who let the monkey escape. Doni confirms this, admitting he planned to give the large reward once Palido was safely away. Lekan scoffs at the idea, telling Doni he's mistaken about what pride is. He argues that Palido feels the same way. Lekan believes no magical beast would be happy being told it can't fight. He points out the strong connection Doni has with Palido. Doni agrees, calling Palido an existence more important than anything else. Lekan says if someone he cared for told him to fight for his own sake. Doni is moved by his words. It would be his greatest happiness as a fighter. Lekan tells him to ask Palido. Gathering his resolve, Doni asks Palido if he will fight for them. He asks Palido to fight for his sake. Palido responds with a ferocious grin. With a mighty roar, Palido accepts the challenge. He is ready to fight for his master and his village's honor. Doni remarks that magical beasts are fighters, and Lekan agrees they are the best. Lekan tells him to send a new request to the association. The request will be for battle training for a magical beast. Lekan confirms with a smirk that he will train Palido himself. Sometime later, Lekan sits with Sheila, who asks about the match. Lekan admits he didn't see it, but after training Palido for 10 days, he was confident the gibbon couldn't lose. Sheila calls him strange for not watching, but Lekan says his only responsibility was the training. Sheila then informs him that Palido's victory was overwhelming. Sheila explains that after winning, Doni appealed to the Lord, stating the timber wolf was better suited for defense, and the Lord agreed. Lekan wonders how the opponents took the news. Sheila says they lost face and insisted on a rematch in 10 years. Now Doni is flooded with requests for base training. Lekan muses on the doctor's extensive personal connections. Sheila turns to the matter of his apprenticeship, saying she wants to hear the results from him in person. Satisfied, she smiles and tells him he passes, welcoming him as her new apprentice. Lekan bows his head respectfully, acknowledging her as his master. Sheila announces to Lekan that they are heading out. He asks where they are going, and she explains that since he came to learn medicine, they will be gathering herbs. She adds that the wide variety of medicinal plants around Voka is one of the reasons she chose to live here. Lekan agrees, asking when they will depart, and she tells him they're leaving immediately. He recognizes the riverbed as the site where someone named Marakis was unmasked. He finds the choice of location curious, wondering if she brought him here on purpose. Sheila's aged form transforms, revealing a young woman. She stretches, her body now youthful and vigorous. Lekan calmly asks his master where they are heading. Sheila is surprised, asking how he knew it was her. He explains that he has been able to see her in this form since the first time they met. As she processes this, he speaks her name, Sheila. She realizes he must possess the magic eye. Lekan questions the term magic eye. Sheila brushes it off, saying that it's fine. She explains that she always uses this form when leaving town because it's more convenient. With that, she tells him to follow her and sets off. Sheila takes off at an incredible speed, leaving Lekan struggling to keep up. He grunts, straining to match her pace. He is shocked by her velocity and the fact that she continues to accelerate. Determined not to be left behind, he resolves not to let her pull away from him. Lekan pushes himself to his limits, matching her blistering pace. They arrive at a clearing, and Sheila comments that the environment is good for growing herbs. She commends Lekan for keeping up with her. Panting, Lekan remarks on her fearsome leg strength. Sheila explains she used Accelerate and Restore magic on herself, and Lekan realizes it was all thanks to magic. Sheila brings up how Lekan struggled with Forbire's heavy garden stones. She asks why he didn't just buy the medicine she is now offering him. Lekan holds the medicine ball, confused about what it is. Sheila explains it's her stamina restoration medicine, pointing out she never told him not to use such items. Lekan is stunned to learn that stamina restoration medicine even exists. Sheila is amused that he didn't know about the medicine. She deduces that he must be a La Envy and resolves to teach him common sense. Lekan's expression darkens. He asks her when she realized what he was. Sheila chides him for his expression, reminding him that he is still her apprentice. She explains that the merchant Cheney suspected he was a La Envy and asked her to teach him. Lekan realizes the cunning merchant saw through his facade. Sheila adds that it's not something he can easily hide. Lekan concludes that with nothing left to hide, it will be easier to ask her about anything during his training. Sheila gestures to the area, calling it a medicinal herb treasury and announcing the start of his lesson. She warns that among the herbs are highly poisonous ones and others that are easily rendered useless if mishandled. She sternly tells him to memorize everything. Sheila and Lekan examine the herbs together. She identifies a good spot and instructs him that they will collect the herbs from night to dawn, when they are most potent. Sheila gives Lekan a bag with a magical box attached for collecting herbs. She presumes he has a similar item for carrying things without feeling their weight, and he confirms it. He asks if powers can be granted to vessels in this world. Sheila finds his question strange, asking what else powers would be attached to if not containers. Lekan's answer is simple and direct: humans. A light emanates from Lekan's chest as he demonstrates his ability. He pulls out his sword from thin air. He explains that in his world it's a skill called storage, granted in mazes. Sheila is shocked, realizing his own body is a box. Sheila is amazed that his storage could fit a large sword and asks if it could hold 100 bags. Lekan confirms it. When she asks about 1,000, he admits he's never tried but thinks he could fit everything he owns. Stunned by its capacity, she warns him not to show this power to other people. She explains that a box with such a large capacity doesn't exist in this world and would be highly sought after. She cautions that people would try to force him into their service just for his ability. Lekan agrees. As night falls, they set up camp by a fire. Sheila prepares a meal. She expresses her gratitude that his storage included cooking utensils, and he confirms he keeps everything he owns inside. While they eat, Sheila notes that the sun has gone down. With a simple gesture, she creates a ball of light. Lekan observes that she didn't chant anything to cast the spell. She explains that it's a simple spell called Lantern, easy for anyone with magical power. Sheila is surprised that Lekan can't use Lantern despite his vast magical power, but he says he can't. He explains that magic is a granted ability in his world, not something that can be learned. This confuses Sheila, who says that even here, one must train to acquire magic. She realizes their magic systems must be fundamentally different. She asks how magic is acquired in his world. Lekan explains it's a rare ability obtained by defeating magical beasts. Lekan explains adventurers in his world repeatedly clear mazes to acquire specific magic from beasts. Sheila realizes that unlike here, anyone in his world can acquire magic, whereas here one needs potential. Lekan adds that he was curious about that, noting the low average magical power of humans here. Sheila explains that only those born with great magical power can learn, and they are taught by other magic users. Sheila adds that magical power and elemental aptitude are separate talents. Lekan realizes this means he might be able to learn magic through training. Sheila agrees that it's possible. Lekan eagerly asks if she will teach him, and she agrees to be his magic master as well. She suggests teaching him Lantern now as a digestive exercise. Sheila encourages him to try casting the spell. Lekan understands the structure, but doubts he can use a new type of magic so easily. He concentrates, focusing his energy. He intones the spell's name, Lantern. A small orb of light appears at his fingertip. Lekan is stunned that it worked. He looks at the light, confirming it lit up. Sheila praises him, admitting she didn't think he'd get it on his first try. She surmises he's naturally adept at seeing how magic works. He tries again, successfully casting Lantern once more. Sheila instructs him to practice Lantern for a while, varying its size and distance. She warns him not to attempt other magic yet. She chuckles, remarking that his enthusiasm is almost like a child's. Lekan gets to work, filling the air with orbs of light. A wide, excited grin spreads across his face. By dawn, Lekan has gathered a massive number of herb-filled bags. Sheila is surprised he collected 100 of all 22 herb types, but Lekan simply states it was his orders. Sheila admits she had wanted to see him complain, but Lekan explains that learning Lantern made the task easy. He privately thinks about using his 3D object sensor to finish quickly, but decides to keep that power a secret. Sheila tells him to put the bags in his storage, and they head to the next place. They continue running through the forest at a relentless pace. Lekan wonders how far they will travel, as they've been running since morning. He now understands why Sheila uses her younger form. An old woman running this fast would be too shocking. Feeling his stamina wane, Lekan decides to take the medicine again. He swallows the small pill. He feels a renewed surge of energy. He is impressed by how effective the stamina medicine is. His legs, which were feeling heavy, have regained their strength, allowing him to keep running. However, he notices the effect of the second dose has diminished, suggesting he can't use it continuously. He thinks of the jewel he gave to Luvi, which had a less drastic but more consistent stamina-restoring effect. He regrets giving it away, but knows it can't be helped now. He steels his resolve, knowing this is the time to learn skills only his master can teach, skills that will become his flesh and blood. They finally arrive at a rocky, mountainous area. They approach the dark entrance to a mine. Inside the mine, Sheila chips away at a crystal formation. She examines a piece, satisfied with its color. She explains that the gem will be a versatile catalyst and that they should take as much as they can. Lekan agrees, noting that his storage makes it easy to carry it all. They work together, digging out a large amount of the gems. Sheila decides they have enough, and Lekan remarks that the haul should last for years. As they prepare to leave, Lekan addresses his master. He offers to provide light for their journey back, casting the Lantern spell. Sheila is impressed, telling him his precise control means his fundamentals are solid. She suggests that she might be able to teach him other magic soon, and he eagerly asks if she really will. Suddenly, they hear a sound from deeper in the cave. Lekan senses someone and alerts his master, who confirms she knows. A large figure emerges from the darkness. A heavily built man with a pickaxe confronts them, laughing menacingly. He claims the mine as his own. Sheila asks if the mine is his, and the man claims he's owned it for 5 years. She retorts that she has been using it for over 100 years. As the man reacts with confusion, Sheila tells Lekan to stand back. She tells Lekan that this will be his lesson and to watch carefully. The miner laughs and demands they hand over all their gems. The miner charges, shouting for them to come with him. Sheila raises a finger and casts Petrify. The man freezes mid-stride, his body stiffening. Sheila calmly explains that this is spirit-type magic. Lekan looks on, stunned by the display of power. Sheila introduces her next spell, a special type magic. She casts Dehydrate. The man's body begins to rapidly wither. His flesh and muscle turn to dust. Soon, only a desiccated skeleton remains. The miner's remains crumble into a pile of sand. Lekan is horrified, realizing the man's body turned into sand. Sheila explains that while this was a high-level version, even a weaker dehydrate spell is lethal. Sheila tells Lekan that seeing this magic in person is the best way to understand it. Lekan stands silently, processing what he just witnessed. She offers him the dead man's helmet, but he declines. She tells him it's time to head back and process the herbs, warning him to prepare for several days of work. Lekan agrees, thinking that seeing it firsthand was indeed the best way to learn. He reflects on his master, a woman over 100 years old, a monster with immense magic and the ruthlessness to turn a person to sand. As he follows her, he begins to wonder if he has made an irreversible mistake in his desire to acquire skills. Lekan is startled from his sleep. A large, shadowy figure looms over him. He jolts upright, demanding to know who's there. The figure is revealed to be a large monkey-like creature named Jericho. From the doorway, Sheila scolds them for being noisy and tells them to get ready for the day. Lekan, still groggy, remembers that he's staying at Sheila's house to learn how to make medicine. Though used to sleeping in stables, he finds sharing a room with a monkey to be a new experience. Looking up, Lekan realizes the ceiling is packed with triple-layered dried herbs, explaining the house's unusual height. Sheila impatiently tells him to stop standing around and get started. She chides him for not even having breakfast yet, while Jericho looks on. Lekan gets to work on a ladder while Sheila sits at a table, beginning her own tasks. He practices a simple pull spell, summoning a bundle of herbs to his hand. Lekan focuses, determined to master the technique. Sheila instructs him to keep repeating the exercise, explaining that it is the foundation for spatial magic and will come in handy. Sheila lays out a demanding schedule for Lekan, drying herbs, preparing moss and seeds, and then making potpourri. Lekan acknowledges his tasks and continues his work, adding ingredients to a large pot. Jericho assists with the heavy lifting. Sheila prepares a small sachet, her hands moving with practiced ease. After a long day of work, Lekan collapses onto a table in exhaustion. Sheila complains that having an extra pair of hands hasn't made things easier since she has to teach him everything. She wakes the exhausted Lekan, telling him they aren't done yet. She points to a large barrel, telling him he needs to sell it to make room. Lekan asks his master for some stamina restoration medicine, while she criticizes his sloppy appearance. He protests that working non-stop for 5 days while learning magic is absurd, and he shouldn't be held to a monster's standards. With their barrels of potpourri, the trio heads into town. They arrive at a shop to sell their goods. The shopkeeper, Cheney, greets Sheila warmly, having been expecting her. She declines his offer of tea, explaining she's tired and just wants to complete the sale. Sheila presents 2 barrels of potpourri, much to Cheney's delight. She introduces Lekan as her new apprentice, asking Cheney to take care of him. Cheney's clerk advises Sheila to let the potpourri dry for another month before selling. Cheney offers a price for the goods. Sheila accepts the offer, pleased with the amount. Lekan is shocked by the large sum of gold coins, amazed that simple wild grass could be so valuable. With their business concluded, Sheila tells Lekan they have 4 more places to visit. As they walk, Lekan asks if the potpourri works on Jericho, and Sheila explains she used transformation magic. At another shop, Sheila is greeted warmly by the owner. Lekan observes how politely Sheila is treated wherever they go. He concludes that she has built up a special status as the town's doctor. Finally finished with their errands, they leave the last shop. An exhausted Sheila declares their work for the day is done. She tells Lekan they can head home and rest for the next 2 days. Remembering his request, she brings up his desire to visit a maze. She offers him a 10-day break, which he accepts with excitement. Lekan thanks his master, saying he'll use the time to sleep while the herbs dry. Sheila tells him the closest one, Galba Maze, is 2 days away. Lekan is confident that at his pace, the journey won't even take half a day. He is visibly excited at the prospect of finally attempting a maze in this new world. As Lekan walks through town, he thinks about gathering information on Galba Maze. He is suddenly stopped by a familiar face. A clerk from Cheney's shop delivers a message from his master. The clerk formally invites Lekan to dinner with Cheney. Realizing he hasn't had a proper meal in days, Lekan considers the offer. He accepts the invitation. Cheney greets Lekan warmly, glad to see he looks well. Lekan retorts that he's actually dead tired from 5 days of work with no sleep, but Cheney encourages him to eat his fill. Lekan apologizes for not reporting back sooner, thanking the merchant for his help. Cheney waves it off, saying he's glad things worked out successfully. A fine meal is served. Lekan digs in, finding the food quite good. The two men eat together, with Cheney expressing his fondness for the establishment. After some small talk, Cheney prepares to get down to business. Cheney brings up the cylindrical magical tool that the assassin Marakis possessed. Lekan confirms he has the item in his storage. Cheney reveals the weapon was created by a famous magical tool creator, a close friend of Dr. Sheila's. It was supposed to have been purchased for Sheila by the feudal lord. However, how it ended up in an assassin's hands remains a mystery. Cheney suggests showing the weapon to Dr. Sheila, and Lekan agrees. Cheney asks if Lekan had similar weapons in his homeland, but Lekan denies it. As Cheney smiles and offers him a drink, Lekan suddenly becomes wary. He questions if he's letting his guard down too much around this man. Lekan knows Cheney is a good person who has helped him, but he also recognizes that Cheney is a merchant who suspects his true origins. He fears their relationship could change depending on the value of the goods from his previous world. He resolves that he cannot let him know everything. When Cheney asks if something is wrong, Lekan blames his brief pause on the alcohol. Changing the subject, Lekan asks Cheney for information. He wants to know about the Galber maze. Cheney admits he's never been inside a maze and can only offer vague details. Cheney suggests getting a map and asks if they are available in Voka. Cheney confirms maps are sold there, explaining that even basic ones show the floor terrain and stairs. Cheney adds that better maps also list the magical beasts on each floor, but Lekan asks what stairs are. Cheney is taken aback, explaining that they led to different floors. Lekan, familiar with a different system, asks if one can use them without defeating a floor master. Their mismatched conversation continues, but through it, Lekan finally begins to understand how mazes in this world operate. Lekan arrives at the maze capital, Galba, nestled in a snowy mountainous region. He finds it strange that there's no outer wall, gate, or admission tax. The town is bustling with activity, with vendors hawking cheap potions. Adventuring parties try to recruit new members, seeking those with long-range attacks. Lekan notes that the atmosphere around this maze is completely different from his former world, but he doesn't dislike it. His attention is caught by a group of armored men. The armored men push through the crowd, demanding people make way. Lekan recognizes them from Cheney's description. He recalls being warned about the Earl of Galba's knights. Cheney had told him they were less strong and more troublesome. He had explained that they are known for picking fights and even blackmailing adventurers to seize their treasures. Cheney had recounted a story about an adventurer who found a graced sword belonging to a noble relative of the Earl. He explained that graced items from treasure boxes have special effects and high value. Although May's treasures belonged to the finder, the adventurer was not allowed to keep it. The Earl's knights overwhelmed the adventurer and forced him to put it up for auction. Cheney confirmed they didn't give it a proper price. The adventurer received only a mere silver nugget for the valuable sword. Only those connected to the Earl were allowed to participate in the auction, while others were detained. Realizing the kind of man the Earl is, Lekan resolves to be careful. He wants to focus on the challenges within the maze, not get involved in bothersome politics outside. Deciding to avoid the knights, he considers taking a back route. However, he is suddenly called out to. A soldier cheerfully asks Lekan where he's from. When Lekan replies Voka, the soldier speaks fondly of the town. He wishes him well, jokingly asking him to drop some treasure on his way out. Lekan thanks him and moves on. He notes the soldier's friendly vibe is different from the Earl's knights and suspects many former adventurers serve as guards here. Lekan approaches the entrance to the Galber maze, a massive natural cave opening at the base of the mountains. A crowd of adventurers gathers near the entrance, preparing to delve into its depths. The entrance to the maze is surprisingly large. The area is filled with energetic adventurers and bustling street stalls, rivaling Voka's shopping district. Lekan is surprised by the vibrant atmosphere, having expected a grim place due to the Earl's reputation. Eager to begin his first maze in this world, he moves to enter. However, a guard stops him, telling him to get to the back of the line. Lekan finds himself waiting in a line to enter the maze, a completely new experience for him. He and the other adventurers file into the Galber maze. Once inside the ground floor, He consults his map to find the stairs leading down. He assumes the magical beasts will start appearing from the first floor onwards. Suddenly, he notices a person shimmering and disappearing. He sees more people vanishing around him. He corrects himself, realizing people are also appearing on the other side. No one else seems surprised, suggesting it's a normal occurrence. Lekan remains calm, confident he will soon understand the mystery. He finds the stairs and descends, noting that the cave is bigger than expected. He's unable to sense the lower levels with his life sensor, just like the mazes in his former world. He arrives on the first floor. The floor is crowded, and he asks people to let him through. A monster, an Urdu, appears and attacks a nearby party. An Urdu leaps towards him. Lekan calmly draws his sword. With a single swift motion, he cuts the creature down. He dispatches more of the red monkeys. Finding them boring, he decides to head deeper into the maze. He muses on the bland, natural appearance of the stone maze, a contrast to the varied environments of his world's mazes. His senses pick up two magical beasts approaching on the second floor. On the second floor, he encounters two timber wolves. He dispatches them with ease. He turns to see what they dropped. A treasure chest materializes where the monsters fell. He opens the chest. He finds a small, bright red object inside. He examines it, noting its soft, elastic texture. He wonders if it's some kind of egg with liquid inside. His inspection is cut short by a sound. A desperate cry for help echoes through the cavern. A timber wolf snarls menacingly. A young adventurer desperately cries for the beast to get away. They are protecting an injured, unconscious companion. The beast prepares to pounce. The young adventurer flinches in terror. Just as the timber wolf lunges, Lekan appears, dispatching it with a single strike. Another treasure chest appears. Lekan retrieves the box. He opens it and finds an ornate dagger inside. The young adventurer stammers out a thank you for saving them. Lekan turns, saying he has a question for them. He shows them the red object from the first chest. The adventurer identifies it as a small red potion. They explain it's used to heal injuries and fatigue, confirming for Lekan that there are other types. Lekan explains what he knows about potions, red for stamina, blue for magic, and others for status ailments. He hands the red potion to the adventurer, but they protest, saying they can't use such a valuable item on a small wound. Lekan clarifies it's not for them, but for their severely injured friend. The adventurer apologizes and agrees to use it. They administer the potion to their companion. The potion works instantly, and the injured adventurer awakens, her wounds healed. Lekan observes the effect, surprised. The other adventurer asks how they can repay him. Lekan tells them it's fine and turns to leave. He has already received what he wanted most, valuable information. On the third floor of the Galber maze, Lekan surveys a cavern filled with jagged rocks. At first glance, the area seems empty, but his senses tell him otherwise. He notices one particular rock that, while appearing ordinary, radiates a distinct magical power, identifying it as the magical beast of this floor. The rock-like creature begins to stir. The creature attacks, its body lashing out like a whip. Lekan easily deflects the blow with his arm. His sword strikes true, but the blade passes through the creature's gelatinous body. The creature immediately reforms, seemingly unharmed. Unimpressed, Lekan observes its unusual properties. Realizing his physical attacks are ineffective due to the monster's slime-like body, Lekan decides to observe how other adventurers handle it. Nearby, a duo of adventurers engages another one of the creatures. An archer throws a rock to lure the monster closer. Her companion, a mage, begins to chant an incantation, calling upon flames of rage to destroy their enemy. The mage unleashes a fire arrow spell. The spell strikes the creature in a fiery explosion. The slime beast dissolves, leaving behind a magical stone. The archer moves in to collect their prize. The two adventurers celebrate their victory with a high five. Having confirmed that magic is effective against the creatures, Lekan decides it's time to act. He retrieves a special item from his storage. It is the Lightning Dragon Gauntlet, a powerful magical armament. He knows it can shoot a lightning attack when he channels magic through it, but wonders if it will function smoothly. He equips the gauntlet and prepares to test its power. Lekan faces another rock slime and channels his energy. He thrusts his gauntlet-clad hand forward. A powerful torrent of lightning shoots from the gauntlet. The lightning attack obliterates the creature. Lekan reflects that once a magical beast's weakness is known, defeating it becomes simple. Other adventurers look on in shock at the display of power. He surges forward, blasting through the remaining slimes. Feeling a rush of exhilaration, Lekan thinks to himself that mazes are where he feels most alive. His thoughts drift to his hazy childhood memories. He can't recall his parents' faces or names. He only has a faint recollection of being yelled at and kicked by adults. And he was always hungry. He was eventually taken in by a shrine's orphanage. The nuns, called loving mothers, were anything but they were strict and harsh. Though he was given basic necessities, he recalls it as a place where children were exploited. Unaware of the darker dealings, he escaped. With nowhere to go, he collapsed from hunger and cold in the wilderness. It was then, at his lowest point, that he found a maze. He ventured into the darkness, where unknown dangers lurked. Inside, a young Lekan was ambushed by a monstrous creature. It overpowered him, its massive jaws closing around his head. As he was being devoured, he caught sight of a sword lying nearby. With a final, desperate effort, he grabbed the sword and plunged it into the beast's eye. The monster recoiled in pain, releasing him. Standing in the dark cavern, the young boy breathed in the cold air, having survived. He held the bloodied sword, his first tool of survival. Licking the blood from the blade, a primal look in his eyes, he had his first taste of victory. He realized he had survived thanks to luck and the maze itself. He continued to fight, growing stronger and earning money. Though his experiences with humans were often poor, the mazes had kept him alive. Lekan believes that while mazes are harsh, they are also fair, a place where God's true judgment resides. Now on the 25th floor, he presses onward. A new, multi-eyed horror emerges to challenge him. He identifies the beast as a golden orb-weaving spider. He unleashes a powerful wind spell. Without hesitation, Lekan leaps onto its back to deliver the final blow. With a determined gaze, he plunges his sword deep into the spider's head, ending the fight. Having reached the 26th floor, Lekan takes a moment to rest. He notes that he's earned a good amount, and his storage box from Cheney is full. With only one day left for exploring, he feels he could reach the 30th and final floor, but decides against it for now. He'll stop for today and return another time to conquer the rest. He joins the other adventurers heading for the exit. As he makes his way out of the maze with other adventurers, he is approached. Two guards call out, telling him to stop. Lekan turns, wondering if they are addressing him. The guards inform him that they have something to ask, and that he'll have to come with them. Lekan is escorted into the soldiers' station. He observes a purchasing counter, realizing this is where he can sell his loot for cash, just as Cheney had advised. One guard tells another that he has just called for the captain. A figure in heavy armor approaches, calling out to the black-clothed demon lord. The man introduces himself as Doug, captain of the maze's security unit. Lekan gives his own name, questioning the demon lord title. Doug brushes it off for later and invites him into his room. Lekan agrees but asks him to be brief, as he's hungry. Amused, Doug immediately orders someone to buy 10 kebab sticks. Inside Doug's office, they share the kebabs. Doug notes they're a favorite among the unit, and Lekan agrees they're delicious. Doug then gets to the point. They've received several complaints about Lekan over the past few days. Lekan insists he didn't intend to cause trouble, which Doug accepts. Lekan acknowledges that as a strong individual, he has no reason to invite trouble. However, Doug explains there are reports of people being threatened and attacked by him on the first and second floors, and he can't ignore them. Lekan denies the accusations. Lekan challenges the notion, arguing that killing and stealing aren't crimes within a maze. Doug concedes the point, but states his duty is to protect all adventurers in Galba, regardless of where misconduct occurs. Lekan acknowledges that he understands Doug's position. Doug correctly guesses Lekan isn't from the area, and Lekan confirms he came from the north. Doug explains that many people challenge the maze, including young adventurers with no prior experience. Doug elaborates that the feudal lord wants to create an environment where young adventurers can grow by gaining experience on the higher floors. Lekan notes that Doug seems to care a great deal for the young adventurers. Doug explains that when someone on a completely different level appears, it creates problems. Lekan understands this creates unease and doubt among the less experienced adventurers. Doug mentions the incident at the stairs, and Lekan admits he flew over the others to get to the lower floors quickly. Doug laughs, saying Lekan certainly scared them, which explains the Demon Lord nickname. He then brings up another issue. The earth grazers on the third floor were overhunted. Lekan realizes they're talking about the slimes he fought. Lekan admits he hunted quite a few, and Doug explains his actions weren't malicious, but had consequences. Doug explains that the third floor is an important hunting ground for solo and older magicians who need to make a living. Understanding their circumstances, Lekan agrees to refrain from hunting there in the future. Doug is relieved by Lekan's cooperation, but brings up one last, more dubious complaint. One party claims they were distracted when Lekan passed behind them, causing a member to get badly injured. Lekan is baffled by the accusation. Internally, Lekan recognizes it as an attempt to pick a fight, but respects that the captain must protect weaker adventurers. He asks Doug if the party is still in town, and Doug confirms he knows where they're staying. Lekan offers 2 small red potions for Doug to give them. Doug is shocked by the sight of 2 small red potions. Lekan explains one potion is for healing and the other is an apology, and they can use them as they see fit. Impressed, Doug thanks him, remarking that Lekan is not just strong but a good person too. Lekan tells Doug he's counting on him to handle the rest. With the matter settled, Doug asks how far he managed to get in his 5 days here. Lekan calmly replies, until the 26th floor. Doug erupts in laughter, amazed that Lekan reached the 26th floor in such a short time. Changing the subject, Lekan asks if the station also purchases goods. Doug confirms they do, offering a fair price. Lekan decides to sell everything he's gathered. He asks to borrow the desk and Doug agrees. He empties his storage box with a clatter. Lekan dumps a mountain of armor, weapons, and monster parts onto the desk. Doug stares in wide-eyed shock. A nearby guard rushes in, alerted by the noise. He is equally stunned by the massive pile of loot. Doug's shock turns to disbelief. It's not just the sheer quantity of items. He identifies a sword that should only appear on the 25th floor, confirming Lekan made it to the 26th floor alone in just 5 days. Another guard expresses disbelief that he could have conquered the 26th floor alone. When Lekan asks if they'll buy it all, Doug admits they don't have enough cash on hand. Lekan agrees to stay in town overnight and return for the money tomorrow, for which Doug will issue a claim check. Lekan adds that he has a favor to ask, and Doug tells him to go ahead. Lekan simply asks for a recommendation for a lodging where he can get a good meal. He leaves the station and enters the town of Vauca. He internally berates himself for screwing up. He realizes he lost his cool and sold the goods he should have given to Cheney, who lent him the storage box. Lekan sighs, resigning himself to his mistake. He figures he can just challenge the maze again to find better items. Suddenly, a familiar voice shouts, "I've finally found you, you bastard." It's Edda, a former acquaintance, who accuses him of ignoring her. Edda insists they were comrades, but Lekan retorts that she's just a stranger. Lekan reminds her that she just dragged him down on their last journey together. Undeterred, Edda proudly shows her adventurer registration, saying she's worked hard and wants to team up again. She grabs him, telling him to stop ignoring her. She pleads that she wants to do bigger jobs and with his power, they'd be unstoppable. Lekan, unimpressed, simply points out that she is a magic user. Confused, Edda questions his statement. Lekan advises her to learn how to use magic, telling her she'll be fine without relying on others. He walks away, leaving her stunned. Edda ponders his words, wondering if she truly is a magic user. Back at Sheila's house, she welcomes Lekan's return and offers him tea. She asks how far he went in the maze, and he tells her the 26th floor. She asks if he was glad he went. He confirms that he was, and she replies that's good. Lekan mentions he plans to go again on his next break, but Sheila says there are things she wants to ask him first. Sheila asks if he has a visitor, but Lekan doubts it. Their conversation is interrupted by frantic banging on the door. It's Edda, demanding to see Lekan. He opens the door to find Edda, who demands to know why he's there. He tells her it's not his house. She insists she came to see him, but he says he has no use for her. She grabs him, pleading for him to tell her where she can learn magic. Sheila invites Edda inside for tea to calm the situation. Edda recognizes her as Dr. Sheila and introduces herself. Lekan dryly comments on her newfound manners. Over tea, Sheila confirms that Edda sought out Lekan to learn magic, and Edda explains the organization told her where to find him. Edda compliments Sheila on her tea-making skills. Lekan bluntly tells her to go home, stating he can't teach magic and has no duty to find her a teacher. Edda protests, asking why he told her she had magical powers if he wasn't going to help. Lekin says the two things are different. Sheila intervenes, suggesting Lekin teach Edda himself, much to Edda's excitement. She explains that teaching others is a great way to deepen one's own understanding beyond surface-level knowledge. From a broader perspective, it would be a shortcut for Lekin's own growth, making his skills truly his own. Lekin agrees to teach Edda the fire arrow spell in exchange for her help. Considering it's what his master says, Lekin agrees, and Edda cheers with joy. Sheila tells Edda to keep her magic lessons a secret, which she enthusiastically agrees to. Edda then cheerfully accepts Lekin as her master, much to his annoyance. Inside Sheila's workshop, Edda struggles to cast a simple spell, her frustration mounting with each failed attempt. She complains that it's no good, questioning if this training method will even work. Lekin internally notes that Edda has plenty of magical power and talent, but she can't manipulate its core. He concludes that the problem must be with the way he is teaching her. Sheila advises Lekin that talented people often struggle to teach those without talent, urging him to think hard about his own process. Sheila tells Lekin they should finish the current batch of medicine, and Edda eagerly offers to help. Lekin carefully pours the mixture into vials. Edda heads out to grab the finished batch of medicine. After their work, they sit down for a well-deserved break with some tea. Over tea, Sheila and Lekin thank Edda for helping them finish so quickly. Edda explains that her magic training will have to be paused as she has a ministry commission for the next 3 days. Lekin tells her not to rush her training, and she promises to keep it a secret. Edda asks her master if they are taking a break, and Lekin confirms, thanking her for her work. With his teaching duties paused, Lekin asks if he can go to the mazes, which prompts Edda to declare she's coming too. He reminds her about her commission, but she insists she wants to go with him. Sheila gently tells Edda that she can't go with Lekin to his hunting grounds yet and should improve at her own pace. She advises Edda not to take shortcuts to reach silver class and to honor the commission she accepted. Lekin internally expresses his relief at not having to babysit Edda in the maze. Sheila tells Lekin he is free to explore the maze to his heart's content, which he appreciates. Lekin mentions wanting to practice some higher-level magic before he goes. Sheila dismisses the idea, stating he knows the fundamentals and should master them through real combat. Just as he's about to leave, Sheila remembers something and offers him a farewell gift. She gives him magic restoration pills she created, telling him to bring them to the maze. Lekin gratefully accepts. With his preparations complete, Lekin heads towards the city of Galba. He makes his way through the bustling market streets. Lekin plans to be in the maze for up to 10 days and decides to stock up on some food. Nearby, a few adventurers watch him with wary eyes. He buys some provisions from a nervous vendor. One of the onlookers recognizes him as the black-clothed demon lord. The adventurers watch in silence as Lekin walks away. The adventurers whisper that looking into his left eye will turn you to stone. Lekin overhears them and wonders who is spreading these bizarre rumors. Suddenly, a man is seen running towards him through the crowd. It's Doug, the guard captain, who calls out to Lekin, saying he needs to talk. They arrive at the Galba security unit guardroom. Doug begins by apologizing for his previous rude behavior. Lekin says he doesn't recall anything to apologize for, but Doug insists, sorry for their inconsiderate suspicion. Doug explains he heard from John and Solis how Lekin had saved them. Lekin recalls the 2 adventurers he helped fight off timber wolves, thinking they certainly embellished the story. He tells Doug he must have the wrong person and tries to leave to prepare for the maze. Doug quickly stops him, explaining that the feudal lord was informed he was coming. Lekin insists he has no business with the feudal lord, but Doug says they want to thank him for the maze goods he sold. Just then, a guard enters, announcing that Lord Henjit has arrived. As Doug is distracted, Lekin sighs in annoyance. He finally arrives at the entrance to the Galba maze. Lekin stands before the entrance to the maze, joining the line of other adventurers. He thinks back on his conversation, remembering that Doug had mentioned being the second son of the feudal lord, but he declined the offer to stay. He spots a noble knight complaining loudly about someone's impolite behavior. Lekin decides it's for the best, as he won't have to deal with soldiers or aristocrats inside the maze. He walks past the other adventurers, heading into the rocky passage. He recalls that the maze has 30 floors, and after reaching the 26th last time, he plans to go deeper. He wants to test the new magic Sheila taught him on the lower floors to ensure he can use it in combat. As he descends, he sees other adventurers disappearing in flashes of light. He understands this must be the transfer floor Sheila told him about. He remembers Sheila explaining that defeating a floor's large beast twice creates a mark. Once a floor is marked, one can shout transfer while thinking of the destination to travel there directly. Lekan thinks it's a convenient way to travel, deciding to try it on his way back. For now, however, he knows he must descend properly. He arrives on the 11th floor, a sparse forest where a creature lurks. He spots a large beast known as a curved snout. Lekan takes cover, preparing his attack. He points a finger and unleashes a fire arrow spell. The spell hits its mark, sending the beast flying with a pained roar. With the beast stunned, Lekan sees his opening. He focuses his mind, gathering and kneading his magical power. He points his finger and unleashes a new spell, Flame Spear. The flame spear shoots from his finger, a thin but potent bolt of magical energy. It pierces the curved snout's hide with ease. The beast collapses to the ground, defeated. Lekan acknowledges that the spell worked. However, he realizes its activation is too slow for real combat and that he needs to improve its speed. He descends to the 12th floor. There he finds his next opponent, a flat albino snake. He casts another flame spear at the new foe. The spell strikes the snake's body. The snake rears back, wounded but still aggressive. Lekan grips the hilt of his sword, ready for close combat. Standing over the defeated snake, Lekan reflects that he's shortened the casting time, but it's still too slow. He questions if aiming with his finger is the right approach, feeling it limits his magical power. He continues on, reaching the 14th floor. A creature called a brown furball lunges at him with a massive, toothy mouth. Lekan casts Flame Spear, creating a swirling vortex of fire. The attack blasts into the creature. He follows up with a second, more direct blast of the spell. He concludes that using his fist takes too long, while using his hand as a sword weakens his aim and power. He needs to find a way to cast naturally, perhaps by releasing his magic as if striking with a sword. He moves on to the 16th floor. A new opponent, a small-armed tree, presents itself. The creature's shadowy limbs lash out. Lekan concentrates, needing his power and creating a flow through his arm. His eyes widen with focus. He unleashes the flame spear with an open palm. A massive torrent of flame erupts from his palm, obliterating the tree monster. He realizes this is the answer. The flame spear is a palm strike, perfectly combining speed, power, and aim. Lekan arrives on the 21st floor. He is confronted by a colossal, headless creature called a wrinkle man. He identifies it as the large beast needed to create a transfer mark. He observes its long limbs and wonders if its immense size prevents it from standing. He correctly guesses the beast is immobile until it receives an attack. He resolves to finish it in a single blow with his strongest flame spear. He fills his entire body with magical power, gathering it below his navel to create a flow. He channels the energy up through his body and into his palms. With a shout, he unleashes the fully charged flame spear. A colossal pillar of fire erupts from Lekan's hand, shooting upwards and engulfing the massive wrinkle man in a devastating explosion of magical energy. The wrinkle man's body shatters under the immense force of the attack. The cavern is filled with dust and debris. As the smoke clears, Lekan emerges from the destruction. He pants, feeling the strain of the powerful spell. He realizes he's completely out of magic. He decides to drink a blue potion. He laments that the amount restored by a single potion isn't enough, so he'll have to use them all. But as he drinks it, he feels a sudden surge of nausea. He doubles over, retching in pain. To his horror, he realizes his body is rejecting the potion. He suddenly remembers the medicine Sheila gave him. He quickly takes one of the pills. He sits against the wall, recovering. He recalls Sheila's warning that even she doesn't fully understand potions. She had told him they defy the laws of nature and cannot be used repeatedly on humans. Lekan understands now that their immediate effect comes with the price of not being able to take them continuously. Sheila's medicine isn't immediate, but it restores his magic at a constant rate. He decides to rest before another beast appears. Suddenly, his senses alert him to a new presence. He realizes he doesn't have time to rest, as something is clearly heading his way. He senses 6 humans approaching, 2 of them magic users, and decides to treat them as enemies. He senses movement behind him. The wrinkle man begins to stir, reviving from his attack. His magic hasn't fully returned, and he now faces a reviving beast and 6 approaching enemies. A grin spreads across his face as he readies his sword, welcoming the challenge. The wrinkled man swings its massive arm. Lekan dodges and leaps onto its limb, running up its length. With sword in hand, he delivers a powerful slash. The blow carves away a chunk of the creature's body. The 6 enemies arrive on the scene. A man named Lord Tamaj Duga announces their arrival, offering to assist Lekan in battle. Lekan watches, bewildered by the sudden appearance of these people. One of the mages, Lord Kimzel, declares he will rain down an electric shock on the beast. The mage begins a long, dramatic incantation to his god. He prays for a sword of judgment to strike down the evil before them. Lekan wonders how long he plans to chant for a single spell and decides he won't play along. He leaps back onto the monster, ready to strike again. Lekan lands a powerful blow with his sword. At the same moment, the mage unleashes his electric shock spell. The spell crackles across the wrinkled man's body. The beast's body begins to crumble. It collapses into a pile of rubble. The mage proudly takes all the credit, praising his own spectacular chant and brilliant attack. Lekan stands amidst the rubble, wondering what these people came here for since he defeated it with one attack. Lord Tamaj Duga congratulates him on his splendid efforts to back them up. He offers Lekan a bag of money as a reward. Lekan wonders since when he became their backup. The blonde knight recognizes Lekan and decides against interacting, not wanting to be placed under any obligation. Lekan turns away, stating he was just fighting his own battle. The nobles praise his admirable humility, while Lekan can only think, "Give me a break." He continues his descent, reaching the 28th floor. A massive beast made of shifting earth, a landslide, rises to meet him. Lekan leaps across the shifting surface of the landslide monster. He senses the core of its magical power must be nearby. He prepares another flame spear, aiming for the beast's heart. His spell erupts, blasting through the earthen creature. He descends to the 29th floor, where a hammerhead snake awaits. The snake strikes him hard, catching him off guard. He retaliates, striking the snake with his sword. He follows up with a powerful flame spear. He lands heavily after defeating the beast. He acknowledges that the magical beasts on these last 2 floors have been particularly tough. He finally arrives at the entrance to the lowest floor. He knows the master of the maze awaits and wonders what kind of strong enemy will appear. He steps into the vast, empty chamber. Lekan descends the final staircase, his cloak billowing around him. He has finally reached the lowest floor of the maze. Unlike the previous levels, this one is a vast, octagonal space with no other rooms or passages. His eyes narrow, scanning the chamber for what awaits him. In the center of the room lies a massive, beastly figure. As it begins to stir, clutching its chest, Lekan watches. He identifies it instantly. This is the floor's guardian and the maze's master, the Great Ogre. Lekan commands the slumbering beast to get up. The Great Ogre responds, its massive hands pushing against the stone floor. It slowly rises to its feet. Lekan watches, startled by its compliance. The Great Ogre towers over him, its monstrous form fully revealed. The 2 opponents face each other in the cavernous chamber, the air thick with anticipation. Lekan analyzes his opponent. This is no mere beast. Despite sleeping soundly moments ago, it is now completely ready for combat. It possesses incredible muscles, a tough frame, and a nimble body that allowed it to get up without a sound. With a sense of grim excitement, Lekan thanks the maze god for such a worthy challenge. The ogre lunges forward with incredible speed. Lekan grunts, bracing for the impact. He notes the creature's raw velocity but also sees an opening. Its body is completely unguarded as it attacks. The ogre's punch misses. It instantly transitions into a kick, forcing Lekan to evade. Lekan is taken aback by its frightening reflexes. The beast is not only fast to attack, but quick to pursue as well. Lekan thrusts his sword into the ogre's leg. The blade barely pierces the tough hide, and he realizes with frustration that the blow was too shallow. The ogre twists its body and lands a powerful backhand strike. He can't believe the creature could launch such a strong counter from its awkward stance. The ogre's tail whips around, forcing Lekan to leap back. He catches his breath, acknowledging the creature's immense strength. It has amazing physique and reaction time, but its sharp nails pose an even greater threat. Even a glancing blow tore his defensive Bear King's cloak to shreds. A direct hit would shatter his bones. The two combatants circle each other, sizing up their next move. The ogre suddenly charges, preparing a right kick. Lekan's eyes widen as he anticipates the attack. He knows that if he keeps taking these hits, he'll be done for soon. He must find an opening to attack or he'll have no chance of winning. He parries another strike, steeling himself for a counteroffensive. The great ogre unleashes a flurry of attacks, its powerful limbs blurring as it relentlessly presses its assault against Lekan. He feels that if he stops moving his hands for even a second, he'll be swallowed up by the onslaught. He has to be faster. Lekan desperately fends off the ogre's barrage. But the constant exertion is taking its toll, and he's running out of breath. Lekan is forced back by the ogre's relentless assault. He leaps away to create distance, but his back is quickly approaching the cavern wall. He realizes he's being cornered. He activates his 3D object sensor, identifying this as his chance. Trapped against the wall, Lekan uses it to launch himself into the air, flipping over the ogre's head. With a determined cry, he prepares to strike from above. Lekan brings his sword down in a powerful overhead strike, aiming for the ogre's head. The beast reacts with stunning speed. Lekan watches in shock as the creature prepares to defend. It raises its arm to block the blow. The ogre successfully blocks the sword with its forearm. Lekan is unable to believe his attack was stopped. The impact sends him flying backward. He lands hard on the stone floor while the ogre recovers. Kneeling to recover, Lekan realizes he couldn't even pierce the ogre's body with a full-body thrust. He regrets not putting on the necklace he received from the young lady. He wishes he had the power of Zydmore's feudal lord, which could cut down even demons, but against this opponent, he has no opening to retrieve the necklace from his storage. He grits his teeth, telling himself he can still do this. A memory surfaces. His master compliments his skill with the pull spell and decides it's time to teach him middle-class magic. She explains that she will teach him move, a form of spatial magic useful in many situations, from battles to daily life. She demonstrates, and a bundle of herbs vanishes and reappears instantly, startling Lekan. His master explains the spell's only effect is to move objects toward a desired direction. She asks if he understands its significance. By removing the constraint of having to physically carry objects, he is freed from many limitations. She advises him to learn the magic well while thinking about its applications. Lekan confirms that he understands. Back in the present, facing the recovering ogre, Lekan has an idea. He focuses his magic, whispering the incantation for move. In an instant, the necklace from his storage teleports from its container. It materializes around his neck. Now empowered by the necklace, Lekan faces the ogre with renewed confidence. The beast lets out a ferocious growl and lunges forward. Lekan meets the charge head-on. With a burst of speed, Lekan closes the distance, his movements now a blur. He aims his sword not to slash but to pierce, driving the blade forward with all his might. The ogre raises its arm to block again. Lekan believes he has landed a decisive blow. His sword finds its mark, plunging deep into the beast's arm. The ogre's hand shoots out and grabs him by the throat. Its eyes burn with defiant rage. Even though it's mortally wounded, the beast is determined to take him down with it. Lekan struggles against its crushing grip. The ogre's body dissipates. Lekan collapses, his consciousness fading. The defeated beast turns into a treasure box that clatters to the floor. As he falls, he desperately reaches for a potion, knowing he needs it to survive. After consuming the potion, Lekan recovers, catching his breath. He reflects on how dangerous that was. If the ogre had taken even a second longer to dissipate, his throat would have been crushed. His sword, however, didn't survive the battle. He wonders what's in the treasure box. He opens it to find his reward, a single gleaming gold potion. Lekan looks back at the empty space where his opponent once stood, acknowledging that it was a frightening and great opponent. With that final thought, Lekan has conquered the Gulber maze alone. Sometime later, in the town of Voka, a well-dressed man with a mustache congratulates Lekan on conquering the maze. He asks how Lekan found it, and Lekan replies that he quite enjoyed it, despite it being a place where he could have lost his life at any moment. The man is surprised that he would enjoy such a dangerous situation. The man asks if he got anything good from the maze master. Lekan reveals he got a gold potion, the kind that is said to grant an ability upon use. Lekan recalls the security captain telling him that the gold potion is highly valuable to adventurers, but the feudal lord probably wouldn't be interested. The man agrees, noting that it's not worth fighting a strong adventurer over, as some famous hero would likely be the one to buy it. He then commends Lekan for already being acquainted with the current captain, to which Lekan remarks that the captain is a good man, unlike the feudal lord's knights. Lekan laments that if it weren't for the knights, the town would be a great place. As they speak, a musician enters. He begins to play a unique instrument. Lekan recalls that people in his former world also sang to their own accompaniment. He finds the music pleasant, regardless of its quality, and assumes the musician must be famous. Lekan soaks in the feeling of having conquered his first maze in this new world, finding that the good music makes the food taste even better. He reflects that it's been a perfect night, though he feels some places are a bit too refined. Suddenly, the musician's lyrics cause him to freeze. His eyes are wide with shock. The mustached man notices his reaction and asks what's wrong. Lekan asks what the musician just sang about, saying it seemed like part of a longer story. He wants to hear what comes next. His host tells his attendant to give the musician a tip. The musician sings of a miserable, pitiful, immortal old king. The king's name was Mahazal, the ruler of Wapad. The song tells of how the king continues to rot without dying, decaying without living. The one who cast this curse of immortality was a dark witch who lives for eternity. The name of the witch who brought the country to ruin is the abominable Elshila. Later that night, Lekan returns to his master's home. He enters without knocking. She chides him for it. Seeing he's awake, she welcomes him home and offers to pour him some tea. They sit and drink tea together. His master asks how the maze was. Lekan confirms that he conquered it, and that there is likely a festival going on in Gulber now. He then touches his neck, recalling that the maze master had incredible power, and he was saved only by a hair's breadth. The master notes that defeating such a beast on his first encounter is quite a feat. Lekan clarifies that he only survived thanks to the move spell she taught him. After a moment of silence, they look at one another. His master asks what he came to talk about. Lekan explains that he heard a musician's song at the restaurant. His master recognizes the song he's referring to, the one about the witch of the ruined country. Lekan looks at her intently and asks if her real name happens to be Elshila. She smiles faintly, confirming that it is an old name she was once called by. Lekan voices his suspicion, connecting his master to the legendary witch Elshila from the songs. She calmly admits to being the witch of Wapad, though she says the stories are exaggerated. Lekan is surprised she admitted it so quickly, but she explains she would have feigned ignorance if anyone else had asked. She says that it's nothing definitive enough to be a reason, but if she were the witch, many things would fall into place. Lekan trusts his instincts, which agree with this conclusion. Elshila remarks on his frightening perception, admitting she expected him to see through her eventually, but not so soon. Lekan listens in silence. She decides to tell him an old story. She begins by revealing that she was once an ordinary human, the daughter of an aristocrat. Blessed with beauty and a talent for healing magic, she was chosen to join the house of Wapad's first prince. However, before she could be married, King Mahazal fell in love with her at first sight and placed her in his harem. She was content with her life in the king's harem, finding it an honor to be under the care of the open-minded king. With the help of the best teachers, she worked hard to study magic, and the king acknowledged her affinity for it. She wished for those happy days to last forever, wondering if what followed was divine punishment for such thoughts. The king, wanting to preserve her youth, decreed that the country's sages find a way to make her immortal. After 3 years, they discovered a secret art of immortality using the magical stone of an ancient dragon. She opposed it, knowing the art didn't grant life, but instead turned one into an undead. Nevertheless, the ritual was performed. She recalls the horrifying transformation that changed her from the human girl Elshila into an undead witch. Lekan listens silently as she tells her tale. He contrasts her story with the song, which claimed Elshila sought the art herself out of ambition and that the king also became undead. Elshila explains that initially, the king was satisfied with her transformation. But with the success of the art on her, the king desired it for himself. The sages violently opposed him, arguing his aged body wouldn't withstand the art. Their concerns were proven right. The king was reduced to a mindless corpse with no memories or conscience. As a temporary measure, she and the premier used control magic to make the king appear alive. She reflects that trying to fix matters with lies and deceit will always go wrong. The first prince's son, Salima, bore a grudge against the king and sought revenge. Regretting that she didn't punish the prince, Elshila sided with him in the rebellion. The fires of war spread across the kingdom, leading to a horrific civil war and its gradual ruin. She had hoped that Prince Salama could unite the kingdom by publicly executing the king. But at the war's end, the prince infiltrated the royal palace. He burned the king's living corpse and then took his own life. To this day, she doesn't understand why the prince did such a thing. With its king gone, the kingdom of Wappad fell into ruin and the witch vanished. Lekan admits her story is hard to believe, but he feels it's most likely true. Elshila is surprised. He believes her nonsensical yapping. Lekan reveals he has a hidden ability he never told her about. He explains it's the ability to sense humans, animals, and magical beasts, and to gauge their magical power. Since entering the town, he sensed her tremendous magical power, so terrifying that he mistook her for a large-scale maze master. He admits he never thought the owner of that power was the person Cheney was introducing him to, but the idea of a long-lived undead possessing it makes her story plausible. Elshila understands now why he was so cautious at first. With the truth revealed, she asks him what he plans to do with her now. Lekan states plainly that he will do nothing. Elshila questions his certainty. He replies that it's fine, as he has no reason to do anything. He acknowledges that if he were to fight an undead being like her, there's a strong chance he would lose. More importantly, he says, she is his master, teaching him the wisdom and skills he needs to learn. He tells her that none of the things she taught him were lies, and because of that he wants to continue learning from her. Touched, Elshila accepts his decision. Elshila thanks him for his honesty. Lekan tells her he came specifically to say this, as Elshila apologizes for boring him with her past. As he turns to leave, Lekan greets Jericho, who seems to have been waiting nearby. Jericho tells Lekan that his sentiment is shared. Elshila admits she was prepared for a final battle when he first arrived, never imagining she would end up with an apprentice. Elshila tells Lekan to take a break tomorrow, as she wants him to teach magic to Edda the day after. Lekan reluctantly agrees. The scene shifts to Edda, who is struggling to practice the lantern spell on her own. Lekan watches her efforts quietly. Lekan gets Edda's attention to begin her lesson. He tells her to forget the spell and focus on manipulating magic, though she is unsure how to do that. He instructs her to close her eyes and focus on the area below her navel. She is to imagine a hot mass in that spot. He then guides her to slowly move that mass up to her chest, then to her right shoulder, down her arm, and finally to her fingertips. Lekan notes with satisfaction that she is able to make her magic flow. Edda feels a strange, itchy sensation inside her finger. He tells her to open her eyes, look at her finger, and chant the spell while imagining the heat bursting from it. She focuses, feeling the heat build, and chants, "Lantern." A small orb of light appears at her fingertip. The small light flickers and vanishes, leaving Edda surprised. Determined, she concentrates on pulling the energy from below her navel to try one more time. She shouts the incantation once more. A brighter, more stable orb of light appears before her. Lekan looks on, observing her success. Tears well up in Edda's eyes as she stares in disbelief at the magic she created. Lekan asks if she's all right, noticing her emotional reaction. She explains through sobs that this is the very first time she's ever been able to do something after studying. Overjoyed, she throws herself at Lekan, crying out that it's magic and she did it. Still crying, Edda exclaims that she's not a good-for-nothing anymore, she's a magic user. Lekan is taken aback by her sudden embrace. Sometime later, a more confident Edda practices her magic, creating multiple orbs of light for Jericho. Elshila appears, telling Lekan he did a splendid job. Lekan is unsure if he did well, feeling that the important parts of teaching are difficult to put into words. Elshila reassures him that thanks to his teaching, another magic user was born and he has changed the child's life. He silently resolves to take proper care of her. A few months later, a new journey begins. A man in a checkered coat greets a young woman, asking if she's from the party introduced by Cheney. The man hires them, explaining that they will be their escorts on the journey to the town of Pantaroy. The woman, Nike, introduces herself as Dr. Sheila's grandchild and says the two behind her are her party members. Nike introduces her companions, Lekan and Edda. Now equipped for travel, Edda looks on with a confident smile. Lekan maintains his usual stoic expression, ready for the journey ahead. The new party of three walks into the forest, embarking on their escort mission and a new chapter of their story.